Pregnant? Yeah, good.
Come on down. How are you?
Hi. I'm just signing here for
Everybody?
you, okay?
Pizza for you guys. Thank you for being here. So we're going to go ahead and dive in respect of your time. So names first off, if you didn't grab a name. In fact, if you want to just grab a name, that would be great so that we can. I'm Nikki Francis, if you didn't know who I was. It's good to always, whenever you come to Ignite, grab your name tag, put it out in front. I love it. I did the same thing. That way we all get familiar with you guys too, because you remember there's only 8 of us and there's 300 of you. So it's hard for us to remember everybody's name. Fabulous. Okay, so we're going to dive right in. So this is session 18. Have you guys been able to hit any of the other Ignite sessions?
Yes.
Okay, great. Are they generally doing a call time for you where you stop, break, and actually make your calls?
No.
Oh, we're going to do that today. You should be doing that. And then what about the 10-4? So you guys know a lot, or you should. Some of these things should be familiar to you. So at the end of the session, you're going to hear things like, well, they don't call it the 10-4 anymore. I still call it the 10-4, but it's basically your daily routine. And we're going to get to that. But the reason I love calling it the 10-4, it's 10 contacts. You put those 10 contacts in your database, and then you have 10 note cards that you write, and you see 10 open houses a week. That was the original 10-4. They've evolved like everything else. Keller Williams will evolve and add things on, take some things off, change names of things. But if you remember the 10-4, the reason I like it, it's easy. 10-4, everybody, right? It works, it's simple. And if you remember your 4 fingers, it's 10 things per finger, 10-4. So the contacts is really important when we talk about what is a contact? What is a contact? If I call you, Sheldon, and I go, hey, Sheldon, it's Nikki. Oh, you're not here? Okay, I guess I'll call you tomorrow. Click. Boom. Does that count as a contact? For it to qualify as a contact, your contact should be a 2-way conversation, including real estate. And that's not because we're tracking you or we're holding you to any standard. Hold yourself to that standard. Because it's not about tick marks like, oh, I made 100 calls. Well, who cares if you didn't get anybody on the phone? That's not a contact. If you can't put them in your database because you had a conversation, that's not a contact. So for me, I contacts and I look down at all my contacts. Oh, I haven't talked to that person in a while. I haven't talked to that person in a while. But that's more random. You want to make sure that you have a system. So what Canadian Command does for you is they tell you in your database, build your database, feed your database, cultivate your database, and then communicate with your database on a systematic manner. Now, if you're relying on memory, you will eventually outpace yourself because you're just going to forget to call people. Or you're not going to remember to call Joe Schmo that you talked to 3 weeks ago. It's going to be where you find yourself getting very activity heavy. So when people are calling you back or they're like, hey, I am going to look for something, you start spending all your time with your top 20 people that are moving, and these other you haven't heard back from don't get your attention. And therefore they forget about you, and the next person that goes walking up to knocks on their door or leaves a handout gets their business. Okay, so that's the whole purpose of using a database where you can systematically communicate with them. So again, this is session 18, Ignite Negotiating Offers. And this, I think, is one of the most important Ignite sessions there are because you can be great at everything. Come on in. There's cupcakes on the corner. Take one and pass them around. This is one of the more important, I think, sessions because you can do everything right, but if you can't convert or you can't negotiate, then you have a database full of contacts that aren't going anywhere. You're just having conversations with people, right? So if you come from a place of contribution and really feeling like your client's needs are what you're trying to service, that'll help you establish how you're going to negotiate and what you're going to say, okay? So prior to this, for those of you that are consistently going through Ignite, was the make and receive offers. As everyone, or who went through make and receive offers? That was the last session, 17.
Yeah.
Or even saw it on the repeat.
Yeah, I was here.
Okay, so the making and receiving offers. That talks a little about how do you structure your deal, how do you approach the other agent, how do you put it together, the nuts and bolts of it. Negotiating offers, we're going to be covering. Once you've done that, you get on your big girl pants and you're ready to pull both guns blazing and you want to win that deal, right? So how do you negotiate? What do you say? What are the types of things you can do to prep in advance? And then next session, which will be next, I'm actually not sure when the 19th one is, getting to the close. That talks a little bit about just wrapping the whole deal up. So today's agenda, what is negotiation? The 3 P's of negotiation, negotiation tips, negotiation tips, recaps and ahas, and then your daily success system. That is what they now call the previously entitled 10-4. So your daily success system is 10-4, and that 10-4 is daily. Okay, so Sheldon, why don't you read this next section here?
Negotiating is not something to be avoided or feared. It's a very part of life.
Okay. What limiting beliefs do you have around negotiating, if any? Do you have any preconceived notions of like negotiating?
Well, I bartend, so I kind of like negotiate when I don't have liquor. And I got this instead.
There you go. That's exactly right. You actually have a very unique job because you hold a lot of the hats a real estate agent has, because you'd be a psychiatrist, you're a nurse, they're a divorce attorney. I mean, in your position, just because people come to the table and they start going blah, 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 about their lives, and many times that happens in real estate transactions. You know, when you have the negotiator, the best friend, whatever's happening, if it's a divorce, you have to be careful not to step too far into those things, but you find that you're negotiating just to get the deal done, right? Because you're trying to find one thing when you initially talk with that buyer, and what is that one thing that you want to find? Anybody? So when you first get a buyer, what's the one thing you want to establish? What's the most important thing?
Well, their needs are.
Bingo. Their why, right? Because in negotiating, you're going to continuously bring them back to their why. Because they will inadvertently go off on a tangent, get caught in the weeds, or start to panic because the rates went up, or decide that all of a sudden the blue paint can't be changed and it can't be purchased because it's blue. You can get past all that stuff and you keep bringing it back. Why is it that you wanted to buy in the first place? Okay, and that can be anything. And in terms of choosing those clients, it's equally important, especially in today's market, when you're choosing a buyer. There's 3 things: motivation, timing, and ability. Critical. Don't work with anybody else. If they're not buying in 30 days or less, if they don't have the ability, meaning money in the bank, and they don't have the motivation to do it now, don't work with them. There's other people that will, and I don't know if you're following the market, but we were just having a discussion recently about people are getting used to the rates. They still need the houses to put the brakes on because they're like, oh no, the rates are going up, we're not gonna buy. Well, if you've just had twins and you live in a studio condo, do you think that you're gonna need to buy? Yeah, can't put the twins back. You still need the space, right? Oh shoot, got you caught with a nanny, going through a divorce. You need to separate your assets. Is that gonna change? Nope. You need to have separate dwellings. So those folks that have to move and make moves are the ones that you should be focused on. Those can be things like death in the family, divorce. I say diploma, I call them the D's. Diploma, somebody's graduating, which is what, an empty nester. Dementia, which would equate to somebody going into assisted living. Think of all those things that are kind of inflation proof. Those things will not change, okay? So they're talking about, like, who's ever bought a car, and have you ever walked in and just go, okay, it's a sticker price, I'll pay it? Hardly ever, right? So there's always some room for movement. You just have to figure out what that is, and giving them, an opportunity to be a win-win, because ultimately they want to sell the car. Ultimately, your buyer wants to buy the property. Ultimately, the seller wants to sell. And sometimes as you get into the weeds, it doesn't always turn out smooth. Things happen. This is real estate. I call it the most lucrative. It's not a perfect science. Things are going to come up in almost every transaction. And it doesn't matter how many years you're in the business, things will still come up. You're like, oh my God, how did that happen? I didn't know that could happen. Things happen. I mean, I actually had a listing with 2 of the parties passed away during the transaction. We're like, whoo! And then we found that the actual property, even though it was willed to the daughter, wasn't put into trust, which was a whole other layer. So things will happen, and I don't want to get too detailed in that particular transaction, but my point is continuous communication with your buyers is really critical, because things go south. And letting them know that up front, saying, real estate's not a perfect science, things do come up, but we'll get past that, and we'll always have open communication. Also a great opportunity for you to negotiate you being their buyer's agent, because real estate is not a perfect science, and many times you'll be like, oh, my uncle's brother's monkey's dog is an agent, because everybody in San Diego has a license, right? Oh, my cousin has a license. Oh, my friend at work. Ooh, do you want to keep that relationship? Because your real estate's not a perfect science, and I hate to see something go south, because sometimes it does. And it's really important that you have maybe sometimes a third party to help you with that transaction. Not to push you away, just say consider that when you're going into that with a party. I recently got off my best friend for life because of a transaction that was great, but in the last 48 hours she got crazy. I'm like, yeah, we're done. It happens, even to me. And I'm the one that preaches, don't ever use friends or family members, and I did it. And I'm like, this is why you don't do it. Follow your own advice. Okay, so the WI4CT2ES has evolved over time. It used to be like the W4C2C. And we're just gonna go around the room, is it Alyssa?
Yeah.
Alyssa. Just go ahead and start with the first W there.
Win-win or no deal.
Yep. Sheldon?
I'm sure doing that. Do the right thing.
Oh, and I don't know your first name, I'm sorry.
Stacy.
Stacy, nice to meet you, Stacy.
Customers always come first. Commitment in all things.
I don't know your first name either.
Julian.
Stacy and Julian, okay.
Communication. Speak first to understand.
Creativity. Ideas before results.
Teamwork. Together everyone achieves more. Trust starts with honesty. Equity. Opportunities for all.
Success. Results to people.
If you ever go to family reunion, and family reunion is like our big brouhaha, where everybody from Kelly gets together, you will hear Mo Anderson and all bigwigs preach this. And again, it's evolved over time, it's gotten bigger. But I have this posted on my wall. Because if you follow this, it's a really, really great way to run your business. Starting with the first one. So listen, tell me a little bit about win-win or no deal. What might that look like?
A win for yourself and a win for your buyer, whoever they are.
When might that go south? Let's say they're coming in and they're like, well, you know what? I really like La Jolla, but I only have $800,000, so do your best. I'm sure that you can negotiate it down. Think that ever happens?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh,
So there's an expectation issue, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that may now, so you're gonna pour all your time in. If you're a brand new agent, your first day, you're like, I have a buyer, I'm so excited. So you will, I promise you will. And this is how you learn not to do it. You're like, yay, I don't like those so much anymore. It's not them, it's just that you've not yet set boundaries in your first couple of years, right? So like, oh, it has a pulse, yay, I'm going after it and helping them. So win-win or no deal, basically, is you're gonna look at your client, you're gonna look at their expectations, you're gonna look at the market. So you're basically assessing the feasibility of whether or not this will be a win-win for everybody. So if they are saying, yeah, my dad was in real estate and he's a really good negotiator, he can get like $100,000 off of anything, we're not going to buy anything over this price, they're already coming to the table with all these roadblocks, okay? So you have one of two choices. You can go, that's great, bye-bye. Or you can say, well, I respect what you're saying, I understand why you think that, however, let's take a look at the market. Always refer back to facts to help support your claims. So if you say, let's look at the market in La Jolla for $800,000. Oh, look, there isn't anything. The closest out there in La Jolla is $1.1 million. And that's a condo, but you said you guys wanted a single family home, right? Are you okay with the condo? Oh no, we want a single family home. Okay, well, in reality, then we're looking at a choice, okay? You can either convert over to accepting a condo, we can maybe get you close to that 800, or you can come up in price. Which are you more comfortable with? So you start out already negotiating with your buyers so that you can establish that foundation and make sure that it's a win-win for all. Communication is also key. Respect for the other side is a key. You've got to make sure that you're not running yourself ragged and ending up with no money at the end of the day. Okay? And it's also got to be a win-win for the sellers. So other things that can happen is if your buyers are engineers. I love engineers, but the engineers will come in, because I always kind of find out a little bit about my clients. So when you first meet your clients, what's one of the first things you should be doing? Let's say you get a buyer and they go, Julie, I want to buy a house. My husband and I are free on Thursday. Can we talk about it? What would be one of the things you would do?
You gotta get them pre-approved.
Before you even do that, you're going to talk to them, right? You don't even know if you want to work with them. So before you set them up a lender, they may be crazy people. You want to establish sanity, right? So the first thing you're going to want to do is set up a buyer meeting. Okay, or buyer presentation. The whole goal of that is determining, and this is what I would say, I don't take everybody, I just want to see, are you sane? Am I sane? Can we work together? Do you like me? Do I like you? Do you trust me? Do I trust you? Let's see if we even mesh. And that usually brings their resistance down too, because they're not feeling like, oh, you're going to push me into a house. I don't even know if I like you yet. I don't even know if I want to work with you yet. Let's establish what you need, and then we're going to see the feasibility of if that's possible, and then I'll let you know if we can work together. And you may not even like me at the end of the day, and there may be other people that you're considering, which has to come up in that initial conversation. So when you're negotiating with that buyer initially, you're going to ask, tell me a little bit about yourself, tell me why you want to buy. That is key, because you're going to keep coming back to that. Okay? I never say what's your budget. I say, what would you like to stay under? That gives me an idea of what they're willing to spend. I don't want to spend any more than $250,000. And then I would follow that up with in San Diego. I literally have someone looking in La Jolla who wants a water view, and he has $2 million. And for him, coming from Idaho, $2 million seems like a lot of money. I said, they start at 8. Love to help you out, but not in La Jolla. You can get Mount Soledad for 6. Because they don't know the area. So your buyers, you have to establish where you're coming from, what's your occupation, what are you doing, why do you want to move, why do you want to buy? And then very, very, very important question that I forgot to ask a lot in the beginning, is there anyone else that will be making this decision with you? It doesn't necessarily have to be a spouse. It could be mom's giving him $50,000. You don't think mom's going to show up and throw a wrench in the deal at the final hour? Fooling yourself. So is there anyone gifting you funds for this? Okay, great. I always give them a piece of paper and say, out of all the things you want, can you please write the 10 priorities down in this new purchase for you? And if it's husband and wife, I'd say, Sheldon, Melissa, here are 2 pieces of paper in front of you from 1 to 10. Write down your top priorities of what you want in your new home. Let them do their thing. A lot of times we do it to Starbucks. They're doing their thing. And I say, great, flip it over. Once you flip it over, I go like this, whoosh, and switch them. And then they're like, no peeking. And then I have them flip them over. And it's very refreshing to go like, oh my God, wow, okay. There's usually a couple of things in there, but the guys are gonna put like man cave at the top. The women are gonna put kitchen island at the top almost every time, right? Or there may be some things like, we want a formal dining room, we want a living room, we want a yard. If they have pets and kids, we want 3 bedrooms minimum. There's going to be, out of that 10, I go, let's circle all the common areas and bring those to the top, and the rest of the stuff is your 20%. So it's always that 80-20 rule. I'd love to get you everything all the time for the price you want, but that's not a perfect world. So can we agree that we'll look for all of these things, but you will be okay with accepting the top 80% of the things that you want, and you're going to be okay accepting that maybe the other 20% doesn't have it. Okay, so get them on their buy-in in the initial stages. That'll really help you in negotiating, because at the final hour, when you start putting your offer in, guess what happens when you put your offer in? They start to panic. This is the first time buyer. They start to panic, and they will pull up all that little 20% crap that shouldn't matter because they're scared. They're starting to panic. Well, it has blue walls. Well, it doesn't have a big enough yard. Well, it has an island, but the island's on wheels. They'll come up with everything that they're starting to panic because they're not focused on what? Their why. So you're gonna keep bringing it back to, why did you want to move in the first place? All this other stuff, paint, flooring, anything superficial can be changed. So when you're coming in to present a home to them, it's important that you know the top priorities. So if they say they want a formal dining room and this one doesn't have one, you can probably find that out from looking at the pictures in the MLS. And I will guarantee you not, they're gonna say, oh, I wanna see it anyway. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because you're gonna end up chasing 500 homes because they're curious, because they just don't, they have FOMO. Oh, fear of missing out. I don't want to not see this one. Well, that's not what you said your priorities were. So let's stay focused on that. I know it's hard, but let's stay focused on that. And then at this point right now, show them everything, because there's nothing out there, right? So it's a different market, and the market's also going to dictate what you do. So if they said, oh, I have to have a formal dining room, would you like a house? Because if there's 7 houses available only in San Diego, 50 people looking for them, and none of them have formal dining rooms, would you still like to see those? Would you, outside of the formal dining room, and this is whatever their objection is, outside of that one thing, is there anything else that would keep you from putting in an offer today? You want to put in an offer that day. And I know we talk a lot about just show them 3 homes. Bypass all of that right now. I would show people whatever is available. And then be really realistic about the market is very tight right now. Sellers are hanging out of their homes right now, because if they sell, they have the same fear that you do. Like, where am I going to go? So your focus is to try to also find homes for them, which gives you listings. So if you have someone looking in San Diego State, okay, and there's one house available and you have 3 buyers, you already got a problem. So a suggestion might be to do what? What could you do to generate some new houses for sale that aren't there on the market currently?
Look for off-market property.
You could look for some off market, but how would you do that? I'm only saying this because a lot of times we never give our agents like that extra layer. Well, how do we do that?
Check in with our in-office Facebook page or.
You could, not a lot active on there. So you're talking about like a FSBO, right?
Yeah.
Which would be like a for sale by owner. They do have those on Zillow. So you could go to Zillow and you can put in for sale by owner and some of those pop up. But what's a true off market, you really have buyers, right? There really aren't homes in that area. You want 3-bedroom, 2-bath. You can go to your title rep. Use your title reps, they're great. You can go to your title rep and say, I'm looking for 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet for my client. Can you please give me a list in this area? Give them a map. Don't make them crazy by giving them a zip code, 5,000 homes. Wherever you are, wherever you're actually going to farm, ask for the addresses in that farm. Then you've got your hit list. And then you get your little, I call it cheap and dirty, your 8.5 by 11. You can just do in Canva or in KW Commands. They have a lot of designs too. 1, 2, 3 up on an 8.5 by 11 piece cardstock, and you cut it with your scissors, and there you've got some cheap little door knockers. Okay. In the beginning, do not make hurt yourself. Cheap and dirty. Where are they going to put it anyway? Trash can. So don't get crazy and be ordering these little house-shaped ones from Etsy. No. Just 1, 2, 3. Done. It gets your face out there. Always put your face on it so they can recognize you when you door knock again. Okay. And I like for you guys, if you're doing that area, I'm not just your neighborhood realtor, I'm your neighbor. And know your neighbors, know your neighborhood, okay? So what I do with that is I just say, we have someone looking in this neighborhood. We'd love to talk with you. That's it, clean and dirty. In addition to that, you can drop what's called a golden letter. Has anybody heard what a golden letter is? Julie, you're shaking your head, yes. Okay, what's a golden letter?
It's a letter to homeowners and asking if they would be willing to sell.
Why?
Because you have a client, an interested buyer, in their home.
There you go. Don't forget that last part. Because if you just say, hey, I'm in the area, I'm your neighborhood realtor, I was just wondering if you would sell, they're going to go, no, right? But if you say, I've got Mr. and Mrs. Magoo, and they've really been searching, and they want this neighborhood specifically, they've seen everything on the market, so they've asked me to reach out to some of the current homeowners to see if there's any possibility that you would consider selling. If you would, we'd love to entertain a conversation with that. Really simple. Saying, I have buyers. You have to bring something to the table. Okay? And you don't know. Somebody could have dementia. They could be at least talking about putting mom, who's the owner, in assisted living. Could be 3 or 4 months down the line when somebody's getting that letter. It could be also an unsolicited offer. We're going to start seeing some of those right now because there ain't nothing out there, right? So if there's something out by San Diego State, these people happen to have a bunch of money, doesn't matter. If it's not out there, it's not out there. So you can do an unsolicited offer. An unsolicited offer is you write an offer on a home that's not even on the market. It's possible. It's considered an unsolicited offer. Now they can do 1 of 2 things with that. They can just ignore it, throw it in the trash. They can look at it and go, oh wow, let me call you back and go, hey, can you up this 50,000? I might consider selling. Or they can call their agent and go, hey, these guys are willing to give me 800,000. If I get 900, I'll sell it. So it could go one of many ways, but the point I'm making here is it's another tool that you can use for your buyers that also gets you a listing. Because if that's the case and you find that, then you're double ending the deal. You're handling the seller and you're handling the buyer. Where that can be a benefit for the seller is you could say, normally I charge 6% for this. Normally every agent would charge 6%, but since I'm bringing the buyer to you, I'm willing and would be open to discount that a little for you, so you could say $10,000 or $15,000 or whatever the 1% is off their home. Okay, so it benefits them. I'm bringing a qualified buyer that I've already vetted to the table. You don't have to screw around with any of the craziness. It could be done very quietly. You get what you want, that get what they want, and everybody wins. That's a real win-win or no deal. Okay. Integrity, doing the right thing, I think that goes without saying, but it's the old golden rule. do unto others as you want them to be done unto you. And don't ever be sneaky. There's a lot of sneaky agents out there. So one of the examples of the real sneaky thing is if you go into an open house and it's that person's open house and you just happen to be there because you're surveying, because you're doing your 410 and you're looking at open houses that week, go to the open houses in your neighborhood, wherever that neighborhood is. If there's an open house on a weekend, pop in. Why? Even if you don't have buyers, why might that be helpful? A, it keeps you in the business, right? Because right now it's tough when there's no open houses out there. You're like, I'm just gonna sit and eat my Fruit Loops and watch what's the Netflix thing? It's easy to just go in a quiet market. Okay. Get out there, know your neighborhoods. You're also gonna know what's available for what price. So as other things pop up, you're like, that ain't happening, because that one down the street is this price for this much, right? So you're gonna become your neighborhood expert. The other is, again, you're getting to know what is available at what price. You're also getting to know that agent, which doesn't, a lot of people discount it. Like some agents don't talk to any other agents ever. Well, if you've been in the business 25 years and you don't need to, great. But I can't tell you how many deals I got accepted because I knew the other agent, especially in a certain area. Hey, Julie, I haven't got these. I just saw you just put this on the market. Let me ask you. First thing I'm going to ask you is, what do your sellers need? Okay, then we're talking about negotiations, right? What do your sellers need? And they're going to tell you 9 times out of 10. They're going to say, hey, you know what? They're retiring. They don't really need to sell fast. We've got plenty of time. This is their pride and joy. And they put everything they've had in the last 25 years in this house. And they really want to get top dollar. Okay, well, how old are they? Oh, they're 82, 83. Would it help them to have a little rent back so they have some time to move since they're older and they don't have to rush out the door? Oh, yeah, that'd be really, really helpful. Okay. All right. And so, I saw it on the market for like $800,000. It's been on the market like 15 minutes. Let me ask you this. If we were to remove the contingencies, now again, you've already talked to your buyer and you told your buyer, netting out there, it's throw out the baby with the bathwater time again, unfortunately, because you waited, you didn't buy last month when I told you to, and now you've got to give your blood type to your firstborn. That's just where it's at. But it's still better to buy and be building equity than paying rent somewhere, right? They're paying mortgage right now. They're just paying somebody else's, right? So when you get to that negotiation stage, you've already preempted your buyer to say, there's very little inventory out there. Don't get frustrated. This is going to be a battle. Get ready to put your armor on. Be prepared. Don't be disappointed if your first 3 offers aren't accepted. I want you to be my best buyer, understanding that it's a numbers game, because guess what? The next guy may not be so understanding and they're going to quit after their first or second or third offer gets declined. In these types of markets, it's not uncommon to write 10 offers before getting one accepted. Okay? Because everybody's in that same boat. So they're like, okay, we'll waive all the contingencies and we'll take off the inspections, and Sansa, usually if they're funded, will keep that loan in there. They won't release the loan contingency because they'll lose a deposit if they do. But many times they will release the contingency on the inspection. Now, if you're in North Park, would you want to let a buyer release a contingency in North Park? And how many of you are from San Diego? You are. Okay, you are. Okay. Stacey, where are you from?
Hawaii.
Hawaii. Very cool. So my buddies Joe and Rolando and Nardo, they're out there. North Park, I'm just using North Park as an example because it's really trendy, right? Cute little trendy restaurants. It's all the dinks out there, double income, no kids, with their cute, tiny little microscopic dogs. And then you've got the coffee guys that are out there. You've got the breweries. It's super trendy, right? It's like, oh my God, this little yellow house with a little white baby fence. It's so cute. So everybody goes for the aesthetics, and it's almost like Instagram land, right? Because everybody wants to live there. That's 20 to 35. It's super cool. You can walk to your favorite burger spot or your little craft beer place or your little whatever it is. And you get caught up in the trendy, right? So guess what they forget? North Park's an old neighborhood, right? So you've got these really cute craftsmen, right? So they're visually appealing, and they're 100 years old, right? So in a market like this, the seller's going to be like, yeah, I'll sell right now, right? Because people are going to be releasing what? Contingencies of inspection. So it is your job to educate that client in the beginning to say, this is what other people are going to be doing. Okay, they're gonna be releasing inspection contingency, they're going to be releasing appraisal contingency. So that's what we're competing with, you've gotta know that. However, if you do that, here's the flip side of that. You could end up with a home that has some massive issues. And here's something else that's important to know, that when you release contingency on inspection, that doesn't mean you can't have one. It just means you can't come back and ask for something. So here's the caveat and the trick, and again, this is where the negotiating comes in. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna give you everything you want to hear to get my offer accepted. Once I'm in there, I'm already in there. You're gonna be more apt to work with me once I'm in position than if I'm still begging to please take my offer. Okay? I will release contingency all day long as it doesn't look like there could be a problem or something that I know. Again, North Park, I'm gonna ask them, hey, have you had any offers on it? Have you done any inspections on it? Do you have any inspections? Now, as a listing agent, I'm gonna do an inspection on that house. I'm gonna have it in the MLS, in the document section. So always check the document section when you're looking for homes for your buyers so that you're not missing anything, because sometimes they have the inspections in there. Again, caution your buyers, just because there's an inspection in there does not mean that they're covered. Okay, you can suggest that it's completely up to you. If you feel comfortable going on their inspection, you're welcome to do that. However, it is not our advice of what we would tell you to do. You still have the right to do your own inspection. Okay? So when you are releasing inspection, contingency just means that you can't come back and go, ooh, we just noticed in the disclosures that pipes were 20 years old. Too bad, you released contingency, we're not giving you anything. Okay? However, you haven't released the appraisal contingency or the loan contingency. Okay? So you still have a little time. You go, okay, well, we didn't know that this was like this until we went and dug into it, so we're just gonna pull out. So the sellers are much more apt to work with you and keep you in the game. It's a risky game, but again, that's all negotiation, right? That's where negotiation comes in. You get locked in, you get your offer accepted, you get in position. What I always tell my buyers, because they start going, well, what about this? We want to know about the neighbors. Who cares about the neighbors? All these little tiny things start mattering. It doesn't matter. The bottom line, and this is what I always say to them, in a race, I can put you in the driver's seat, but I can't put you in there if somebody else, I can take you out. I can't put you in there if someone else is already sitting there. It's a very simple analogy to help somebody understand. We need to get you into offer accepted position before we start nitpicking all these little things, okay? Because if you start saying, what about this, what about this, what about that, what kind of materials are used on the roof, all these tiny things, you're gonna do your due diligence, right? You're gonna use your due diligence for that. So don't get too nitpicky and problematic in the beginning. Get your offer accepted, use your due diligence to figure out all the crap. Okay?
That's for the investigation of the property.
Correct. We're seeing right now in this market what's going to happen in probably 3 weeks. Okay, people are now getting comfortable with the rates going up. And so what we saw is everybody put the brakes on, right? Oh my gosh, the rates are going up. I'm going to wait. Like somehow they're miraculously going to go down. They're not. Like somehow all the prices of homes are going to miraculously go down. They're not. The only thing that happened was the sellers that thought, ooh, we're still in the seller's market, yay! And they were way up here. Their houses didn't sell. So they had to lower their price from where they should have been in the first place. So it's a little bit deceiving because the buyer's like, they're going down, I'm gonna wait it out. You know, long wait. Because now what's happened is the buyers are getting comfortable with, all right, okay. They're starting to listen to their agents. Rates are not going, they may take a mini dip, but they're not going down anytime soon. And the price of homes in San Diego are not going down because of what? Bingo. Ain't nothing out there. That is not going to miraculously self-correct on its own, right? Demand's still going to be there. Yes, some people are leaving California, but not enough, right? That demand's always going to be there, specifically because we're a military town. We're always going to be a military town. We're always going to have the influx of military coming here, right? We have incredibly stupid weather. People are going to come here. Retirees. I'd rather live here than Palm Springs or Florida. No bugs, no crocodiles, right? So we're never going to have that even out where there's going to be too much inventory in San Diego ever. So that will not change. So folks that have put the brakes on and we're waiting, we're kind of just, we don't know what's going to happen. We're just waiting for those rates to drop or we're waiting for those prices to drop. Nope. Shit. Okay. All right, fine. We'll go ahead and buy. And realistically, if they don't buy in the next 3 weeks, they may be priced out of the market for years. It's that small of a window, and it's happening right now. So if you have buyers that are sitting on a fence and have been considering or talked to you or like, yeah, we're gonna do it next year, we're gonna do it 6 months. So you know what? We were just in a meeting where we're looking at all the market stats. And because of inventory being where it is, and because what we're seeing, the change of how long homes have been on the market, sellers aren't selling, they're holding on to stuff. Because we were saying they don't have anywhere to go. Okay, they have equity in their homes, so those people that were suffering during COVID, lost their jobs and whatnot, refinanced their homes, stayed alive. Whereas in years past, they would be like, I gotta sell my home. And I'm like, I'm just gonna live on my equity. All right, so they're not selling it, so it's an all-time low on the inventory. The buyers that are out there need to be very creative with those, and have an aggressive agent, which is another negotiating tactic for you guys. Say it's very important to have a very strong agent on your side, and you do this, right? It's very important you have a very strong agent to take care of you in today's market, because only the cream of the crop are getting their buyers' offers accepted, which is the God honest truth, right? Which means that I'm going to give you all the ammunition you need up front. We're going to talk about the reality of the market and you not be comfortable to make some of those offers because it's going to scare you a little bit, but it's so important to get your offer accepted, and then we use our time, we use our time to use our due diligence to get into the weeds of what else is going on. You know, there may be a barking dog, and every time you go there, there's a barking dog. That barking dog's not going to go away, and if it's something you really can't live without, don't buy the house. You know, but don't nitpick it to the point where the sellers are going to go like, I don't want to do it. These guys are already paying them up. We haven't even gone into, secondary stages now. Another negotiating tactic I use with the buyers is I tell them to make sure, well, okay, if you're dealing with foreign investors or anybody that's foreign at all, ask them where their money is. So it's your responsibility to make sure that they have the first stage, which is the meeting, okay? Who, what, where, why are you moving? How much money do you have? What's your budget? What neighborhood do you want to have? What are the amenities you want? That's step one. Number two, how do you plan to pay for that house, right? So they could say, well, we have $250,000 saved up. Doesn't really matter, because I've seen people with big giant down payments, and guess what? All their money's in China. Can't get it out of there. So we've had those situations happen where we got down to the wire, we showed proof of funds, and this is how I know, because we couldn't do the deal. Because we couldn't get the money out. Luckily, the sellers worked with us and they waited. But if the money is not in the United States in bank account, and it's a foreign investor or someone from another country and their funds are in that country, you need to find out how long it's going to take for those funds to get into the U.S. Okay, so proof of funds don't really matter unless they're here. The other is
Those are for cash offers?
no, but if they're putting $250,000 down, all they have to put down to hold the house is how much of a percentage? 1 to 3%, right? So their big down is in China. It takes a minimum of 10 to 15 days, sometimes 3 weeks to get that money out and over here. Well, we're going to tick on contracts, right? These guys found their great new forever home in Montana, and they are selling contingent. They didn't put it on a contingent offer, and they didn't even say, it'd be like those cupcakes. Anybody that didn't get a cupcake? Help yourself. We had a situation recently where the sale was not contingent. The sellers did not put it that was contingent on buying a new home. We were buying it, as we were saying the buyer. We were buying it, they were buying a new home. But it wasn't really contingent, meaning they weren't going to put the offer in until their home sold, okay? Well, they jumped the gun and they found something they really, really loved, and they put in their down payment. Everything seemed smooth until my crazy buyer went nuts in the final hours. And it was an Airbnb situation where the buyer was demanding the Airbnb email and phone number and website and everything be turned over to her. Well, you can do that in VRBO, but you can't do that in Airbnb because it's against their terms and conditions. So she said, well, I'm not signing anything yet. Really? Seriously? It's like a week before closing. And I'm thinking, oh dear God. So my first call was to whom? Hey, Broker Bob. Right? Do anything like that where anything goes crazy, calling the broker. So I'm like, hey, Broker Bob, here's my deal. The buyer is kind of threatening that she's going to pull out. The sellers now are freaking out because they've already put their deposit in. They found this place and they're like, oh my God, they're freaking out. They meanwhile have like $15,000 worth of equipment on the property that we had just spent 3 hours walking through the property and picking these things out, what they wanted and what they didn't want. And then at the 11th hour, at the end of that 3 hours, is when it came up where the owner of the property said, oh yeah, no, well, the reviews are gonna stay with me, but everything else goes with you. The reviews carry over though because I have another property. And I'm like, oh, that's not what we talked about. The key word there, talk. Avoid oral instruction. Everything that you have to do has got to be in contract, and keep in mind, anything that is not a house is not real estate. So if it's connected to an Airbnb business, or if the furniture going with the house is contingent on the sale, that is a separate transaction. Furniture is not real estate. Airbnb businesses are not real estate. You should have a separate contract for those types of things, and an agreement outside of the real estate contract.
Wow.
Okay, so what ended up happening is the buyer was threatening not to sign. I spent an entire 10 hours on a Saturday trying to find a loophole, and if there's one, I would have found it, and there wasn't one. And I said, here's your deal. VRBO can be transferred, and they've agreed to transfer the reviews even though you haven't earned them. I don't think you deserve them, but they've agreed to do that. Airbnb, not only does it not get allowed, but if you try to assume someone else's identity, they will terminate you, both of you. So don't even try it, because if you do that and you get caught, you can never do this. So be happy with this, accept this for what it is. You're gonna have to start your new account and move on, or there's no way to move forward on this. Well, fine, then we need to get this done right away. Like it was not a problem, but it was everybody else was freaking out. And at that point, do you think the sellers were happy with us or really mad? They're like, we don't ever want her calling us for anything, right? And all that equipment we were gonna leave them, we're taking it with us because separate contract. So if it does have to go to arbitration or there's anything that's discussed, it's completely separate. So yeah, what ended up in that particular deal is in the 11th hour, because the buyer said, I don't want anything until we get it figured out. They've got a pack. They're trying to get things put in their pods. They're like, fine, we'll sell it on them. We sold it all. So she showed up and there was like fiber optics wires hanging. They took all the speakers, all the TVs, all the tractors. There was an $1,800 tractor they were going to give her for $500. She didn't want to buy anything. She's saying like, oh, well, so-and-so has one I can borrow. And I'm thinking, it's snowing this weekend. So my husband and I went up. It's Julian. My husband and I went up and we rented a different Airbnb just for giggles, because I'm thinking, I wonder how that snowplow that she doesn't have is working out. Oh, she can't have it borrowed because the other gal snowed in too. So just all these things can happen, and it's really important you just get all the details and ready. And when in doubt, grab one of us, because we probably experienced the pain of one of these situations, or the broker. Okay. And that could have been where we were on the verge of being sued. The sellers had already lawyered up. My buyer never felt any of that. She never got any of that. So at the end of the transaction, she was like, I just want to let you know how disappointed I am about this. Don't ever talk to me again, okay? So it really can go south, and they may not even know they're being a complete pain and lost out on all this stuff because of their actions. So it gets tricky. But just always, again, the biggest thing is negotiating all of that up front. So you know what their expectations are, you make it as clear as possible, and even when you make it crystal clear, and I literally had 72 pages, not kidding, of a communication journal, because I saw this happening, it still went south. But if I got taken to arbitration, I'd be like, she crazy, and that's why. I hate to say that, those are my best friends. They're like, yeah, documentation is everything. So I do just a regular Google, just a Google Documents. And you know when it's gonna go south. You know it. You know it because you have that really uncomfortable feeling. Oh, why would they ask that? There's just things where somebody wants to change up their loan after they put their offer in. Why would that be a problem? Anybody tell me? Or have you who here has not had a sale yet? Okay, all right, okay. So I'll just go over this very quickly because it has to do with negotiation. Very, very important. When you're putting in your offer, you're putting in just that front page, right? I'll pay this much, this is how I'm buying it. Terms and conditions in a nutshell. Doesn't mean you can't change it up. That's why I tell everybody, get the offer in, close that deal. You can always go back and say, I want to write an addendum to that. They can say no, but you make it as juicy as possible, and then you can always go back and go, well, can we do 30 days instead of 20? It doesn't matter to the seller, many times you can. Where it gets sticky, again, this is the same damn transaction, but where it gets sticky was this buyer wanted to only put down 25%. What's the most important thing when you put in your offers? Pre-qualification, right?
Right.
So I get this pre-qualification letter in like 15 minutes. I'm like, that's problematic because unless you've already given all your documents to somebody, that's as good as Kleenex to me, or another thing I use in the restroom. Okay, so it's not valuable unless it's actually gone through underwriting approval. What I told the seller to get the deal, we're talking about negotiations, right? On the other side of it, they had a buyer that recently pulled out.
That's just.
So what do you think is going to be most important to them? You don't want that to happen again, right?
Okay.
So they need peace of mind that the buyer is capable and able and isn't going to pull out or have an issue. Now, adding complications to it, the previous buyer was an LLC. She was a business owner. My client was an LLC, who was a business owner. So it added more fear to the sellers. You have to understand what you're dealing with. So the sellers were super fearful of even accepting our offer because they're like, oh, we can't get to the 11th hour and have this happening and I just can't do that to them. I said, what if I were to give you document underwriting approval on the loan? Because that's what happened on their other one is it fell out, right? So you're looking for the pain of the opposite side. So when you're negotiating, you're first getting all of the details about your buyer and what they're able to do and what their expectations are. Then you flip that when you're getting ready to put your offer in, and you're calling that agent and you're saying, what do your sellers need? Can you tell me a little bit about their situation? What's most important to them? And they'll tell you flat out most of the time. They need some time to move out, or they need rent back, or they in this case have buyers pull out and they really need to have the peace of mind. It wouldn't happen again. So I'm like, bing, there's their pain point, right? So I'm like, how can I fix that? Give them the peace of mind that we can do this. So I said, okay, if I can give you document underwriting pre-approval, will that make you feel better? He's like, oh yeah, that would make us feel so much better. That would be great. Okay, all of a sudden they're not taking our offer at all. And all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I'd probably take that offer, right? So I have to make sure the lender can do it. So I send over the offer. I send over his pre-approval letter, which was based on the offer. And I said, before I send this in, can you, because they countered that they wanted to see document underwriting approval within 3 days. It was by Friday. Now, on a regular loan, we could do that. So I said, before I send this counteroffer in, please look at the counteroffer. Can you do A? Can you do B? You said yes and yes. Great. The only problem is that she changed it to a jumbo loan midstream. So she didn't want to put more than 30, she didn't want to put more than 25 down. But it was written with 35% down. Wouldn't think that, why would that be a problem, right? When you're a new agent, I don't know, money's money, right? It all comes out to the same in the end. It changes it from a traditional loan to a jumbo loan. You have now thrown a big giant apple into the apple cart and it's toppled over and there's apples everywhere. Because a jumbo loan takes a lot longer to approve and it goes through a different underwriting process. So that added all this time onto this pre-approval that now I feel, I look really bad, right? Because I've said, if I give you this to give you some peace of mind, would you be okay? The only thing that saved me, and this sounds so terrible, was right around the holidays. So there were like holidays and there was extended weekends. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm out of town with my kids, which I really was. But it was adding time, right? Which sucked for the sellers because like, now we're 10 days into it. If we don't really, where's this pre-approval? And so I'm trying to talk with the lender and the lender's not communicating with me at all. Because the buyer told the lender, don't talk to her, only talk to me. There's so many layers of wrong in this, right? But you don't know some of that's gonna happen. Ultimately what happened is changing lenders created a difference in the offer, which means you've negotiated this. So that seller's agent came back and said, I wanna see your loan. So the buyer's like, that's unethical. They don't need to see our loan. We're gonna be approved, so that doesn't matter. I'm like, no, you have to understand something. We said we do this, we have to produce this. And they refused to produce that. And then the lender would talk to them, and then they felt badgered. They said, because you're not doing racial figuring! So it just became so ugly. And you can't do anything about that as far as how do you know that's gonna happen? You don't, but in negotiation, where that comes into play is you've negotiated this offer. If anything in that offer changes, that changes the negotiation, right? The way that should have been handled is, I'm trying to think if I would have done anything different had it not been my best friend. Probably. I probably would have, in all honesty. I would have said, this is the lender I work with, I know that you work with somebody, please talk with these other folks. She did, she hung up on him. As soon as the lender stuff started changing, I should have put the brakes on and went, let me go see if that's okay. Because the one thing that we promised him, we can now not deliver. But I thought we could because the lender told me we couldn't. So we were 10 days into it before he jumped in and said, you need to just calm down, we're gonna be approved, you just need to be patient. If I was that listing agent, I probably would have pulled and kicked that buyer to the curb. But it was because of the relationship that I had with that listing agent at that point. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm good for this. Really, I am. She's super qualified. And I know they need this peace of mind. And I will be checking every day. And I did check every day, which made them come back and say we badgered them. But they were doing their job. So by all means, protect yourself. You negotiate whatever you negotiate. You've got to stick to it. Any changes in that negotiation, it's a new negotiation, right? And things will happen. I've seen situations where maybe a parent says, I'm gonna give them $20,000. And then Sally Joe does something that pisses mom off, and now you're only getting 10. I'm not giving you anything. That changes the negotiation, right? Because now you are able to do what you said you could do. Or they didn't make enough in their paycheck and they need more of a gift letter. Everything buyers get is a new negotiation. It doesn't, the sellers don't necessarily care how the structure is done. But the lender needs to know exactly how much money they're getting and from what sources and so forth. So any of those things can change the overall picture. So just be careful in that. So whatever negotiations you do, that first call to that listing agent and finding out what the buyer, or sorry, what the sellers need is critical. And then you're gonna be matching up your pain points. You get your buyers and what they need, all your negotiations with them of what they're willing to do, and then you make that call to the sellers. And so sorry, I forgot your first name.
Joel.
Joel, that's right. You got a little shout out on the page. Did you get that? Last time you were here. I said kudos to Joel.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
Next respect.
I do remember that.
Joel is my sole survivor of my last. There's also cupcakes, so help yourself.
Thank you.
The biggest thing is matching it. It's just like a puzzle. You know, these guys need this, these guys need this. And so you've got to really listen to that. You should listen to one thing, one or two things. And most of the time for a first time buyer, it's gonna be what? Why do they wanna buy? First time buyer. So they don't own a home already. So what are they doing? Nope, these are first time buyers. They haven't bought yet. They don't own a home yet. Well, what are they doing if they don't own?
They're renting.
Bingo, they're renting. So for a first time buyer, your focus for them is always gonna be easy. Show them what they spent in the last 5 years. Show them what equity was built in the last 5 years in the homeowners that did that. You know, stay focused on that. Yes, this is gonna be painful. Yes, you're gonna pay more in interest rates than you want. Yes, you're probably gonna be scared because now you have a house. But guess what? You're not renting because none of that money that you spent in the last 5 years you're ever gonna get back. It's like buying a condo with $1,500 HOA fees, which I still don't know why people do. You don't get any of that back. It's like buying a computer. The minute you buy it, it depreciates. The minute you drive your car off the lot, it depreciates. That's why you don't get credit for things like car loans. It doesn't make your credit scores go up. You get credit for what? Mortgages. Your credit scores go through the roof. When you're understanding the processes, it's a little bit easier than just. Okay. All right, so today's agenda, which we've gone through a quarter of it already. The 3 P's of negotiation, negotiating tips, recaps and ahas, and then the daily success system. So what is negotiation? That's interesting to have it. All right, path of negotiation. So, Alyssa, why don't you read first option 1?
Option 1, offer accepted close.
Easy, because it always goes that way, right? We love it. Okay, Sheldon, option 2.
I'm sorry, I don't know where I'm looking at.
Did you say path of negotiation?
Oh, got it.
Option 2.
Offer, reject.
That's generally how it goes, right? Very rarely do we put an offer, it gets accepted, and we close. Although, when you've been in the business for a while, and you know the agent on the other side, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna pre-negotiate that deal before I ever put ink to paper. Hey David, it's Nikki, how you doing? Yeah, I saw you got some there 123 Day Street. Hey, my guys at like 600 grand, would that do it for you? Yeah, what do you need? They need a couple weeks to be in there with without paying? Sure, yeah, we can give you a couple weeks rent back. What else you need? Sure, you leave all that crap, we'll clear it all out for you. All right, so if I wrote it up today at 600,000 and give you 2 weeks to rent back, you do it right now? Awesome, I'll have it sent over to you. I already have that drafted. That's how fast I am. So if we're going up against seasoned agents, know that it's just sitting there, and if they go, no, we really need 2 weeks, I'm writing the 2 weeks in as we go. Great, I've got my buyer on standby, I'm gonna call the agent, you're ready to sign. Okay? And as soon as I click, as soon as I hang up, I get an offer exactly the way they said they'd accept it. Within 15 minutes, that phone call being ended. Can't always do that, but as you get to know the other side, whether you know the agents or not, as you get more comfortable in what you're doing, you can do the same thing. You don't have to know the other side. You're gonna find that that's when you start loving negotiation, right? Because initially you're like, I don't want to ask for anything, you know? And as you start knowing your business more, all you're trying to do is you're trying to help them, right? You want to sell, I'm trying to help my buyers, you're trying to help your sellers, you're just trying to put the pieces together. What do you guys need? How can we make that happen? How can we make this happy for all parties so that it'll be something that'll work for them? And then the other thing I usually ask, and they may not tell me, is like, are you holding anything else? Holding any other offers? Are they over 450? Like whatever I think they're gonna be. I'm like, oh, they're over 475. They're not gonna tell me flat out. Sometimes, if my buyers or my sellers tell me that I can disclose the price, there's a little box you can check there. I'm like, I'm holding 685, coming at 20% more, you got it. Nope, not there, okay, next call. Boom. So know that depending upon how aggressive the listing agents are, they can use that against you too. Because you don't know what they're holding. You don't know. So there's one thing that you can do, because if you're dealing with me, I'll get you way up here because you don't know what I'm holding, right? And most first 5-year agents don't do this and just say, oh, okay, what are you holding? I have 875, if I got 9 1/4, they'd probably sign that. I'm not holding anything. You don't know because it's a poker game, right?
They'll say they're not holding anything.
You don't know. You're taking my word for it, right? If you're just asking me, so here's what I do if I'm on your side. So if I'm representing a buyer, I'm gonna go, hey, what are you holding, Joel? You holding anything on this house? Any offers already in hand?
2 offers already came in.
2 offers. Can I ask you if they're in the like 875, 890 range? Am I coming somewhere around there? Would I be in the ballpark?
890 was the last one.
890. So if they came in at 895, do you think they'd accept that?
Yes, I think that would
Okay.
work out.
That's what I'm gonna do for you. I'm gonna write you an offer. If you want to shoot me that first page of that buyer's offer that you have currently, I'll write this for 895. Let's get this done, okay?
Sounds good.
Called you on it, right? You have to supply me with that first page. You can black out and Sharpie out the names, but I need to know that somebody actually put that offer in. Otherwise, you're snowing me.
Holy crap.
Can you get a draw for that?
It's all verbal.
Oh, okay.
It's my husband's a professional poker player, so I get a lot from him. I can't get past him at all. I'm like, how did you know that? And he goes, well, relatively, I'm thinking there's this many cards on the table, so there's about like 1
Holy
ace.
crap.
My head's gonna explode. So I deal with real estate like that. I'm thinking, okay, relative in this market, how fast are houses selling? What's the likelihood this person has 2 or 3 other offers? Do I know this person? Do they snow me off in? And if they are holding something, what do I think the highest offer is gonna be? And then if I do, right, we're gonna be walking into this, boys and girls, we're gonna be walking into this multiple offer situation very soon. So they actually will be holding offers. Right now, in the next 3 weeks, you've got a prayer. Okay, so I wanna know if they are holding, because like if I can beat it, I will. But I wanna know they're not gonna be pulling my leg. Because what I always say, if you ask me, are you holding any? Yeah, we've got about 3 people interested. I never said we're holding any offers. Right? I led you to believe we are, but I never said that. So as you're dealing with more and more seasoned agents, listen to what they're saying. Because if somebody says they're holding off, I'm like, great, show me your hand. I call you. And then they have to show it to me. I'm like, well, it hasn't come in yet. No problem, I'll be in at 375, and you have 24 hours to get it back to me. So that's when I know they've lied. I'm calling them on their bluff. I'm putting my offer in, and I'm putting an expiration date on it of like 12 hours. I'm giving it to them at 4 in the afternoon, and at 10 in the morning. I'm moving on. Be careful with those, though, before you do any expired offers, and especially in this market, because there's not a lot available.
Sure. On the transaction I had last year, I remember calling the listing agents and asking if they had offers. And they were just saying, I can't really share anything with you. And so we felt like, well, whatever offer we're putting in, they're going to just use that
Okay.
for future people to get over that. So we kind of felt like, should we wait until the last day,
It's always the worst.
They're reviewing? Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So Julie just made a really good point. She said that she called recently a listing agent and said, hey, do you have any other offers? Because she was trying to gauge where they should come in. And then it was like, they weren't telling her anything. It's like, oh, we're really not allowed to tell you. They can tell you. If the sellers allow the agents to tell you what the price is, you can disclose anything. I never do, just because I love negotiating. I really love it. And so here's why I don't tell them. I only want your buyers to spend as much as they're willing to spend on this house. Because if I say $895 and they come in at $920 because they feel like they had to get the deal, then they're gonna nitpick the living snot out of it during the deal. I don't want them to come in with an offer because they thought they had to. I want them to come up with an offer because they wanted to. And I can tell you that I've had offers that were $10,000 and $20,000 where I went, nope. Because they came in after the fact and said, oh, wait, we wanna up our offer. Too bad, my friend. Because these guys already wanted it at that price. See, so these guys are gonna stay in the deal where these guys had to be coerced into getting that price. So that I always say to the buyer's agent, I go, you know what? Go back to your buyers and have them, say this to your buyers, write it for as much as you're willing to lose it for. And that's the answer to that question. She's saying, what do I say? When do I put it in? There is no good timing. If you're first out of the gate, will they use it as leverage? Sometimes, depends on the seller. Sometimes it depends on the listing agent too. Most listing agents will be like, oh, I'm gonna collect everything and I'm gonna get the best offer. More seasoned agents, I'm gonna know exactly what price my sellers are gonna accept it at. Sometimes that first out of the gate, if it's strong enough, I will say this to you, not gonna counter, gonna take the top 3. We might just accept the first one and put the other 2 in the backup. So give me your best offer, bye. That's how I work, which is not common, but that's how I work. Why? I want the agents, I don't want to do a lot of back and forth. I do a lot of investors who are black and white people. Show me the money. They're not gonna go back and forth negotiating. If anything, I'm gonna tell them, here's the title, here's escrow, here's what I want. Sometimes I even give them a sheet, write an MLS. I want this, and that. Whoever comes closest to it gets the cheese. And then even then, I'm still gonna look at the top 3 and I'm gonna probably take the first one and put the other 2 in the backup position. And again, I'm not going to, who's gonna do that? The seller. The seller is gonna do that, not even the seller's agent.
Are sellers, when the market is very competitive, are sellers submitting multiple counter offers? Or are they just like, hey, we're just gonna go with the highest bid?
It's a very, very good question. In a market like this, depends. The answer is always gonna be depends. And here's what's gonna come into play there. Multiple counter offers are common when you have a lot of offers. So if you're dealing in very popular areas, Claremont, North Park, Pacific Beach, places that are, likely to have more than 3 offers on it, if somebody gets 10 to 15 offers, they're probably gonna counter the top 5, maybe 6.
Okay.
What I do, again, I'm kind of non-traditional. I write a letter to all the buyer's agents. Here's what you're up against. And I give them the skinny of 3 VA offers, 2 cash offers, 3 funded offers, 25% down, 3 had no contingencies, 2 of them waived the appraisals, and they're in ranges from 675 to 7.25. You have 24 hours to get me your best offer, go. Versus a counter offer. And then I let them know, yeah. And then that way, and somebody actually wrote me a letter and said, I've been in business 25 years, I've never seen anybody do this. And she goes, I really can't be upset that we didn't get considered. Because I told them exactly what I was holding, but without being specific. And I gave them I'm holding 675, 625, 70, 71. I didn't say who was giving it to me, but they knew what their own offer was, right? Mm-hmm. So they knew where they were in the pecking order of offers. So if you're in the middle and crap, somebody came in $25,000 over, that middle person's gonna go back to their buyers and maybe say, they're holding offers up to this, we need to come in a little bit higher. Or maybe we release contingencies and that's more important to them. That was huge for me as a listing agent. You release your contingencies on inspection. But if you do that, I'm gonna make you go one further and I'm gonna have you do 10% of your deposit due and payable to the buyer upon contingency release 10 days after you put the offer in. And that's how I get around the buyers messing with me. Because on the negotiating side, again, everything's a negotiation, right? Oh, negotiating. Did I say I'll negotiate? On the buy side, your job as a buyer's agent is to get your offer accepted. Right? Get it accepted. Have integrity, but get it accepted. Get in there. Okay, once you're in there, it's anybody's ballgame. Then all sorts of stuff starts happening, right? Because everybody's like, yeah, you got it accepted. Then all of a sudden your buyers become crazy. I want this, and that. What about this, and that? And they start becoming more difficult. Once they're so excited, oh my God, yay, after 10 offers. Now we want to get picky. Now, did you forget the other 3 offers that you didn't get accepted on? Once they actually feel that pain, they're a lot easier to work with. And that's why I say, don't worry if you write 5 or 6 or 7 offers. And you gotta put your metal britches on right now, because it is a fight out there. There's a lot of agents, there's not a lot of inventory, and you're going to get your offers declined. It's just because not everybody can be accepted. So the other thing is, as a listing agent, I'm gonna take those, or as a buyer's agent, you can circle prospect my own listing, even if it's not yours. You can go and say, hey, you know what? Golden letter, right? My buyers just put in an offer down the street. Unfortunately, they didn't get it. They really want this neighborhood. They've asked me to talk to the homeowners in the area to see if you would ever consider selling. Can we have a conversation about that if you're open? Because now you have a real life situation, right? Your buyers didn't get accepted. Get yourself a listing. Then you're gonna double end it, because you're gonna have the listing and you're gonna take care of your buyers.
Oh,
Snap, right? Yay, whoop, whoop. See, for everybody out there not TV land, all these good nuggets you're missing. So on that option number 2, option number 1, I submit it, they accept it, we close. That happens to me all the time, but it's only because I pre-negotiated it before writing the offer. You won't always get that opportunity, but that does happen. Option number 2, you put in the offer, either take it or they don't. And even if they take it, most agents will always counter something. They'll leave it to where they can counter the escrow and title, just because they want to leave their door open for other offers to come in, so that they can then counter multiple people. So to answer your question, multiple counter offers are very, very common. But here's what is annoying about that. I don't like it when I get a multiple counter offer and the first thing says, come in with your highest and best offer. Because I don't know. Then I'm right there back in square one, not knowing what to put my offer in at. Am I good enough? So a lot of times I'll just call them up. I would just love to go into the stratosphere for you, but is price really the bottom line for them, or is there anything else that we can offer that's important to them or equally important to them? Don't ever stop negotiating. Listing agents, primarily, good ones will pick up the phone. Ones that have been in the business a really long time, sometimes don't pick it up at all. Because they're just like, this is what I'm going to take, and this is what it's going to be. Or if they're super, super busy or big teams, don't expect to have a lot of conversations with those guys. There's more independent agents than there are big teams. Okay? So just pick it back up. Oh, thank you so much. We just wanted to let you know how grateful we are to get considered for the counter offer. And before we submit, just want to just ask you, is there anything with the other things that you're holding right now outside of price? Is there anything that's important to the seller that would be able to sway their mind? What would make you look good as a seller's agent that I could bring to the table that would help get this deal done? To ask them. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, just give me your best offer. The other things that I look at as a listing agent, I will look at speed of offer. If somebody comes in and says, you know what, they really loved it, we're going to be writing up an offer. 4 days go by and I don't have it, they're probably going to be like that in a transaction, lag, or they must not have been that interested in it, or they get an offer right away, or you suck as an agent, you didn't give me your offer for 4 days, meanwhile they're crying to get the offer in, right? So I look at speed of the offer, I look at the demeanor of the agent, I look at everything. I do all of my own open houses, so I'm going to look at up and down what you're wearing, the way you talk, the way you treat me, the way you engage, the way you talk to your clients, everything. I'm assessing every little thing, and I'm writing little notes on my little tiny hand sheet. Everything. And then every single agent, in addition to their buyer, goes in my database. I signed in, right? Oh yeah, we got an agent. That's great. Now I have your data. You're just not here right now, which is perfectly fine. I'm not going to negotiate with them ever, but when might I call them? Maybe a month later, when I've forgotten that they have an agent, and I say, hey, it looks like you popped into one of our open houses a little while back. Just wondering, are you still looking, or did you guys secure something? Oh yeah, we were trying to, but our agent ran off the radar, and he just disappeared. Well, we'd be happy to help you with that. so many good little nuggets. This is a little off the beaten path of negotiation, but I'm gonna give you a couple nuggets that you would never think of that I did out of desperation because I was hungry. I'm like, okay, what else can I do? Mama needs food. Baby needs new shoes, right? So that's one of them. Your sign-in sheets, I've just done for market research. There's 2 ways of doing them. You can have hand-done sheets, and if you want my sign-in sheets, just, you guys all have my email? I'll just give it to you right now. It's just Nikki@NikkiFrancis.com.
CKI.
It's N-I-K-K-I, like first name of a stripper, last name of a saint. Nobody forgets that, right? But Francis Nikki. So I'm gonna put down here, I'm giving you guys the dashboard if you want it. So far, Alyssa, you said you wanted it, right?
Yeah, that's spreadsheet.
Okay, the spreadsheet. And like I said, it comes with a phone call. It's like giving somebody a baby without instructions. So I'll definitely give you a phone call. Dashboard, and then I'm calling it the buyer circle prospect. Because you can use your own buyers, because people are like, well, there's many listings, I can't circle prospect. How many listing agents do you think actually get out there and circle prospect their neighborhoods? Very few. So sometimes, if I'm feeling just fun, I'll go circle prospect somebody else's neighborhood, because I know they're not doing it. So I'm not gonna go, hey, there's a house down the street. I'm going to market that just like I would if it was my listing. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you know that there's, ABC Market or ABC Date Street just down the street from you, and I'm sure that, you're very aware that every sale in the neighborhood affects your sale. So I want to just give you a little info. These are the last 3 that sold in your neighborhood, and of course that one's also for sale. If you wanted a market analysis on your property, what you are in today's market, what kind of equity you've built, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that. Your face and your name and your phone number on there. It shows that house is on there. That one's for sale now. Not mine, but it's for sale. You're not doing anything but giving them a market update, right? Because that other agent's probably not done it. The biggest failure that I see is pre-listing marketing and post-listing marketing. Pre-listing, you're never gonna know if they've done it. If they're doing their job, if you guys have listings, you go out the Thursday before and you invite everybody to the open house and you pre-market. You know why I know they're not doing it? Ain't nobody at the open house, right? So for me, we got cupcakes, we got food truck, we got balloons from the car dealer. These are big giant balloons. 2 sets of them. Oh yeah, there's a clown inside probably doing little clown balloons for the kids. Whatever it is, you make it as appealing and as fun as possible. But just the fact that you meet the neighbors, it gives you a chance to meet the neighbors. Now you can't do that if it's not your listing, but you can post market it, right? As soon as the listing goes up, right now if there's no homes for sale in your neighborhood, goes up, boom, I'd be out there marketing that neighborhood like that. Hey, just want to give you a little market update of what's happening in your neighborhood right now, this minute, before the rates go up, before you get caught not being able to sell your house because everybody's going to flood the market as soon as all the buyers start standing in line again. And that's in about 3 weeks. You could probably get your house on the market in 2 weeks if you'd like to get ahead of that. So if you're even thinking about selling in the next 3 to 6 months, whip that up and let's just get it on the market. We can always extend your escrow, okay? So those are ways to get ahead of what's happening in the market real time, this minute. And so you're negotiating that listing for your buyers, and you're also able to double end that, provided that your buyers it's in the price range. And if you're in a neighborhood, most neighborhoods, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet, they're relatively the same houses unless you get into crazy neighborhoods like Del Mar and La Jolla, where you've got custom homes and all sorts of crazy going on. The only neighborhood that's like really strange is the one I grew up in, and that's Bayho, because you have a 92117 zip code. And so it's technically Claremont, but you have everything and their brother in there. You have the Mount Streets, which are considered more desirable. You have a pocket in Park West that's considered more desirable. Then you start coming down the hill, which is less desirable. And then you get on the flat line of Marina Boulevard, which nobody wants. And then you get up in the hills where it's 1.7. So you have ranges from 685,000 to 1,000,007 in the same neighborhood, because you have so much diversity in terms of different types of things. It's the only neighborhood I know that's like that, and I only know that because I grew up there. Okay, so moving on. So on that negotiation.
Before you move on, just a quick question.
Sure.
can listing agents contact their buyers just by looking at all of the offers?
Sure, if you want to get brought up from the BRE on charges.
Okay.
No, we cannot contact my buyers. Yeah,
Okay.
your clients are your clients. My clients are my clients. And that's why you sign. Technically, they can. What would keep them from doing that? It's unethical. I would never do that.
Right.
But they can, unless you have
Your BRE?
yep, that's it. Your buyer broker agreement. Okay, your exclusive agreement. When you have that, that says, I'm marrying you, you're marrying me, and everybody knows it. Now, if I go off and cheat or do something you don't like, we can rip that up. But until that happens, we're wedded to each other on paper. Which means, because this happens all the time, clients will, buyer's agents will get lazy. Don't be lazy. Don't be lazy agents. Because I will take your clients. No. No, but I mean, don't, because other people will. When I say don't be lazy agents, oh yeah, go drive those neighborhoods and go to those open houses and let's say, let me know if you found anything that's good. Oh, if you're my client, right? So that happens all the time, where people come in and they're like, oh yeah, we have an agent. I'm like, where's your agent? Why is he with you? Be with your clients. That to me is a perfect half a day. Yes, it's a half a day, it's a lot of time. But you're also establishing rapport. You're able to talk about it each time. What'd you like, what'd you not like? What'd you like, what'd you not like? And it's like that game, or when you're in the optometrist's office, right? This one or this one? This one or this one? Itty bitty tiny nuances, little slight changes. And you're getting better each time they see something. And then you're gonna start seeing a pattern. He crazy, but she knows what she wants, right? You're gonna start seeing that nothing's gonna make him happy, or vice versa. You've got the picky wife, or the husband that he doesn't get his man cave, nothing in the house is gonna work, right? So you'll start to notice that. Then you have to put those brakes on. Okay, I see this pattern coming up. You know, we see in the beginning, we talked about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, your top 10 things, but on the last few homes, they were shot down because you didn't have this one thing. How important is that one thing to you? Well, if I don't have that, I'm not buying that. Great, then we're only gonna look for homes that have at least that. We're gonna build everything around that one element. Right now, the wife's getting ready to divorce him because she's like, I don't care about that. Well, then y'all need to have a little offsite talk. Let's circle back tomorrow and see what you want to do, because we're not going to, otherwise it's wasting your time as a buyer. I won't be able to take care of you if you're telling me you want this one thing, because that kind of changes our trajectory, right? If you want the man cave, that means you basically want to convert a garage. You can do anything with that, right? You say, I'm not letting my Alexa be out front in the elements. Well, then you need a garage. No, I want a man cave. I want a garage. Go off and talk about it. Go back and see what's really important. Okay? Because that's going to keep you from being able to move forward, because you're just going to keep looking at things and they're going to keep arguing about what's important. Rare, it happens though. Okay. Let's see what else on that. Anything else on that one? So again, little tips on that. Your you can leverage the new listings in the area for your buyers. And let's say you don't have any buyers. Do you think there's buyers out there? More buyers or more sellers?
More buyers right now.
You betcha. Do you think somebody's got a buyer that's looking in that area? In 300 agents, do you think somebody's there, especially in San Diego State? Hey, I've got buyers. I didn't say they were mine. Right? Be careful with how you word things. I've got buyers that are looking in this area. They've seen everything on the market. And because of that, they've asked me to go and reach out to you to see if there's anyone that'd be willing to sell. Could we have a conversation about that? If you knocked on 100 doors, I guarantee you you'll get a listing. Guarantee it. And then all you have to do is, hey, I've got an off-market listing, who's got a buyer? Right? Or you put it on your Facebook page. Or you talk to your tenant. As of right now, you guys should be creating a pool of buyers from open houses. If you haven't done, has anyone not done an open house yet?
I've only shot it before.
Okay, so and these guys are new, right? December?
December.
So you're only a couple months in, 90 days in.
But he's done a couple open houses.
Okay, and in your open houses, walk me through that a little bit. So I'm in here and I'm sniffing around. You greet me, right? You're like, oh, thank you for stopping in. What's the second thing out of your mouth?
Can you please sign in?
Perfect. And where do you have them sign in?
In my tablet.
No. I'll tell you why. I've done some market research on this. I've had tablets, because I'm a tech person, and I've had paper. 9 times out of 10, I will get the real information on the paper and not on the tablet. Because we're conditioned, when we put something in a typewriter, where's it go? Into somebody's database, right? Which is what's happening, which is what we're gonna do on paper, but we feel like somebody's capturing our information, right? How many times on an app, to get what I want, I gotta give you my stuff. 555, 555, 5555. Now they're smart. Now they don't let you do the 555s. 619, 555, 5555. Because I don't want you calling me at 3 in the morning. I just happen to be up wanting something, right? So on that note, you can continue doing that, but I'm just saying personally, I found almost 35% more success rate on paper. And it's primitive. There's 3 lines. It's name, email, phone number, and then I have 3 little boxes. Would you like to be notified of like homes in this area? Would you like to be notified of homes that are not on the market in this area? 9, 10, 10, they go back up and they change their email to the right email because they put I want to know about the things that are off market. Right? So then I know I've got it. The downside is it's harder to read them and sometimes you can't. But I still have more than I had when I was using the talent. Okay? And then I have a little spreadsheet that I do when I'm in an open house, because unless you're having a really bang up open house and you have 45 people, you got time on your hands, right? So you can be putting it in your command. For me, I put it in a spreadsheet. Before I do that open house, when you're a buyer's agent and you're hosting other people's open houses, if you don't have your own listing, you're gonna take your little phone and you put it on a little Snapchat little filter, whatever that is, and you go, "Hi, this is Sheldon. I just want to thank you so much for stopping into the open house today. And while you're out and about today, if there's any other questions you have on any other property, feel free to shoot me the address and I'll be happy to get some info from you. Thanks so much and have a great day." Boom. Notice I didn't say, "Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so." I didn't even mention the address of the home they stopped at. I just thanked them for stopping into my open house. So what are they going to remember? Boom. They saw you, right? They're going to remember your face. And that goes out to them the minute that their hand gets on the door handle and you get in the car and go to the next house, pink, a little video pops up for me. 10 seconds, right? And it just says, "Hey, thanks for stopping by. By the way, they're not with their agent, right? You don't even know. I don't want to know if you have an agent. I'm not asking. I don't know." Because many times people think they have an agent, but they're not signed with them. You really have an agent? No. I don't ask. I don't want to know. If they have an agent, I will 100% respect that. I will never cross that line. But if they say, "Oh yeah, I'm working with an agent," it's usually their cousin or somebody from work that's sort of helping them out when they have a chance, that let them into the lion's den of an open house with another agent. So, not to say that it's, people don't do it on their own, but I've seen more people lose clients because the listing agent happened to be there, they had some great rapport, the buyers ended up saying, "Oh, I really like you, I really want to work with you." It happens. I'm not going to say who in this office, there's some really aggressive agents that have buyer broker agreements on site at an open house and they will sign your client, boom, right there. Whoa, right there. You can do that. I don't think that's very nice. I'd like to just let the agent fail and I'll be there just in case. I'm like, "Oh, that's okay, that's cool. I mean, I'd love to be considered as your backup if anything goes south there." And guess what? I answer my phone. So the minute my phone, again, best friend, never one of my friends no more. Never. But another really good friend of mine. That's exactly what happened. She called me and said, "Oh, we're thinking about buying next year." And as soon as you say, "I'm thinking about buying next year," what are you doing? You're buying like a few months, right? Because as soon as you say, "I'm thinking about it," you're thinking about it. And then you're like, "We should just go window shop and see what's out there." I don't window shop. I don't try the shoe on and it leaves its little face in the store. It comes home to mama with me, right? Because it looks so cute when it's on, right? You start getting out there, you start seeing things, you start falling in love with things. All of a sudden, we should get pre-approved because, just in case we find something, all of a sudden, they say cut your time in half. I think it's even faster. So when somebody says, "We're going to buy in 6 months," they almost always buy in 3, sometimes faster. So what happened is they had asked me, "Yeah, we want to see where we're at." I said, "Great, and first thing is getting pre-approved. Let's see where we're at." "Oh, no, we don't want to do any of that yet." "And then I don't want to spend my time with you yet." You got to be able to say no. Because otherwise I'm running around with people that I can't put into a home because they haven't gotten pre-qualified. So what do you think happened? I'm looking at Facebook one day and I see the husband and he's got his arms crossed and his back is to us. They did this really cute little Instagrammable post. I'm like, "I'm looking over our dream home. We're so excited." I'm like, "What happened here?" It's a friend. Okay, you assume because it's your friend, they're not going to go with another agent, right? You never know. And I go, "Did I miss a call?" And she goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We really should have called you. Here's what happened." Like, let it ride. Let it ride. Because you think that, you have a great rapport and they trust you. It doesn't matter. You don't know what's going on. And it's also my rapport is with her. This is her husband. She goes, Thomas was out there, he was looking at a bunch of stuff, and he saw this house, and it was totally checked all the boxes that we wanted, and the listing agent was like really cool, and she ended up showing us a whole bunch of other things, so now like he feels really obligated, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Okay, no problem. I'm like, wow, okay, well, at least run it by me, so I can give you my 2 cents on whether or not it's a good buy, all right? And then if you want to work with this person, I completely understand that he feels obligated. And that happens when you don't door knock your neighborhoods often enough. And the next person comes by. If you don't door knock and you door knock 6 months later, meanwhile, somebody's been coming by every week, who do you think they're going to pick? The person whose flyer they throw away every week, not the one that they see once a month or once every 6 months, right? So make sure that you stay fresh. And so what happened in this case is he felt really obligated because she was helping him out, showed him a bunch of things that day. So it's really good. It's really easy to be a good agent for a day. I'll just sit here and wait, right? Because I didn't want to infringe on it. They weren't signed, but still I wasn't going to push them. I'm like, all right, well, I'll still be here. If anything changes, I'll be here. So I have confidence in your abilities of being a good agent. I think it was not less than maybe 5 or 6 days later. She said, hey, I just want to ask you about this one listing. Can I send it to you? I'm like, sure. What do you got to ask me about it? He said, well, we went over here to this guy and says it's an open house, but there's nobody there. And then we called him and he said, oh yeah, do you have an agent? And we told him we did because we've been working with that gal. And he goes, well, great, we'll have your agent show it to them. Because what they're trying to do is get into this house, and it was an open house, and it should have been open. But this is a lazy listing agent that didn't have it open and said, oh yeah, I was hosting 2 open houses, so I closed that one. But since you have an agent, like you said, go have them show it to you. We found out later, again, unethical, but we found out later that that person didn't really have that house that was for sale. It was his own house that he had as a listing, and he only wanted to show unrepresented buyers because he wanted to be able to capture them as a client. Don't ever do that. There's no rule that says you can't list your own house, but that's so cheesy. Don't do it. But her point was, we can't get in to see this house. He's telling us how our agent come to it, but our agent is in Julian, because they were in Julian. They were looking at this place in Point Loma. I'm like, that's a far cry from Julian. And she's busy today, and we wanted to know if you could show us. I'm like, no, I can be your agent if you're ready for that, but I'm not going to be your substitute teacher.
That's right.
What you're telling me is they're not servicing your needs, but you're not willing to hop over, and that's okay. That's okay. I don't want to take you from that person. That's who you're choosing. You stay there. So be willing to be okay to do the takeaway. You can't get me. No. But if you're really done with them, I'll be here. But I'm going to have you sign a buyer broker agreement now. My own friend, because I'm like, you're already cheating on me. Right? Because that tells me that you can be swayed, which is okay. And that little piece of paper allows you to say, oh, I'd love to, but I can't. I have this little piece of paper. So that's where negotiation really starts, right? Is honoring your time and making sure that you have that relationship with your buyer. So, another week goes by, they couldn't get into something, and she's like, oh my God, this is it. Can I ask your opinion? I'm like, you can if you're ready for me to be your agent. She goes, fine, what do I need to do? Just let me know that you're not working with that other person. She goes, okay, I'm not. Okay, you're gonna sign this. I have to sign with you? Huh? And then we got them into a property that they ended up making $300,000 in 1 calendar year. It was in Julian, and we got them 6 acres for $600,000. 8 acres for $600,000. And then pandemic hit, and where did everybody want to live? We want to grow our own food.
Oh,
Price went through the roof.
that's right.
So we'll go further. So on the option 2 with the offers, obviously submit it, it gets accepted, you close it. The second option is you put in your offer. It either gets rejected or countered. If you're somewhere in the ballpark, you usually get countered. And I will usually ask the person, hey, are you guys going to do counter offers? It's kind of a silly question because they usually always do, unless you're dealing with me. And then maybe 5% of us, they're like, nope, give me your best. I'm going to give you all the information that I can. If you failed to read it because it's all in MLS, that's on you. That tells me a lot about you as an agent, right? That's why I do that. So I have deadlines on things. I have little tests all along the way. And you don't make those tests, it tells me what kind of agent you're going to be in a transaction. That also comes into play. So when I'm talking with my settlers, I recommend, first I don't recommend anything. We have multiple offers. We put all the offers in what's called a multiple offer evaluation, and then they're kind of rated. And then I can say, this person said that they loved the house and they got their offer in within 15 minutes. This one said that they liked it, but they kept him and hawing and called me back 35,000 times before they put their offer in. What kind of buyer do you think they're gonna be? Right? Just telling you, it's your decision, but it's our responsibility to explain to them the agents also matter. The interaction they had with that agent with their buyer matters. Okay, so are they gonna be problematic? Are they gonna be easy peasy? That's how your transaction's gonna go. And then that second little circle there, it becomes a second negotiation, right? It's kind of like you're starting over again. You got your counter offer, now you have decisions to make, which means you made the shortcut. Yay! Made the short list, and now you need to go in with both barrels blazing. So you go back to your buyers, and you're negotiating again, right? So you're really negotiating with two people. You're negotiating with your buyer, and you're negotiating with the seller's agent. So when you bring that back to the table, you go back to your buyer with as much information as you can gather from that listing. And that's gonna vary every time. So you go back to the table and say, they're holding 5 offers, the top offer is $875, and you may get some buyers immediately go, we're not going a penny over $850. If they're really close, break it down per month over a 30-year mortgage and say, okay, so you're telling me that you're willing to live this house for $5.72 a month? So if you start breaking it down over the course of 30 years, even though I'm not paying a penny over this, let's break it down and see what this looks like. Okay, so make sure you do that with, again, that's part of negotiation, right? You're coming back and saying, I hear you, but I'm gonna raise you by giving you more information that's gonna help you make the right decision. Because if the right decision to them is, I'm so stubborn, I'm not gonna pay any more, great, then don't pay a penny more. But before you make that decision, let's look at it on the big scale, and you're really only paying $5.72 more a month. Do you like the house enough to pay $5.72 more a month for the next 30 years? And if you don't buy it. It can be amount of principal. And then at that point, then it either gets accepted or rejected. So there's no more counteroffer. Occasionally you'll get secondary counteroffers. So again, if it's a heavy market, there's 15 offers, and you go and counter 6 of them, and then 3 come back, and they counter those 3 by saying, okay, this is what I need from you. And that's when it gets to be hardball from the listing agent back to you. Whether they are at that point holding the cards. Right now the buyers are holding the cards, but it's gonna last for maybe 2 more weeks. At that point, completely flips the switch. The sellers are then holding the cards, and then they go, okay, I got all these offers. All right, so then the last counter that comes back to you, the first counter is gonna go, give me your highest and best. It's gonna be all easy, right? Last counter that comes over to you, they're gonna go, I want this, 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 and this from your buyers. Okay? And then you have the and that's the second counter. You have the option to go to your buyers and say, this is what we're gonna need to do if we want this home. Okay, and if this is too rich for your blood, that's okay. You can walk away from this one. But this is what we're gonna have to do to get this home. Because they may come back and give you a number. They may come back and they may say increase deposit. They may come back, like if it's me, I'm gonna make you give up your deposit. It is transferable and non-refundable to the seller. Now I've had some pushback, hi broker Bob, I've had some pushback on whether that's legal, because it is, but technically what it is about that is that if anything went south, what I'm talking about is like your deposit, the whole point of having a deposit and protecting your buyers as a buyer's agent is you do your due diligence and you're protecting their deposit, right? Well, if I'm sitting on 6 offers, I don't even want the slim possibility of you pulling out. So you better be pretty sure before you put this offer in, or you're gonna lose your money, because I'm gonna require in 10 days, regardless, that you release that to the seller. That's how sure you better be about this house. Now it's after your due diligence, I'm giving people their 10 days, which is 10 by the way for me, not 17 or 21. Again, we talk about terms and negotiating. What else can you do besides money? You can bring the terms of conditions down. So it's normally 17, 17, 21, meaning 17 days for contingency release, 17 days for appraisal release, 21 days for loan release. Before you start jerking around with that loan, you better talk to that lender and see if their structured loan can be done in under 21 days. Now, if it's military, sometimes it can't be. If it's in a trust, sometimes it can't be, because there are paperwork trails that are required back and forth, and we just don't necessarily know if we're gonna get them all. HOA, don't ever do that, because HOA is notorious for dragging their feet on getting HOA docs out. If it's day 17 and you still have the HOA docs and you're required to release your loan and you find something in that HOA docs that's a deal killer, you're stuck in that buy, or you're gonna get sued, or you'll lose your deposit. Yeah, it's much, much easier as a buyer to get out of a deal than a seller. So you are, as a buyer's agent, in a better position to protect your buyers than a seller that changes their mind. Once the buyer releases all contingencies, all of them, and that seller, for whatever reason, decides not to sell it, they will be sued and they will lose. So in those situations, I've told the seller, you are better off. Well, it's only happened to me once, and yes, it was a friend. That's why I have this hard rule: no friends or relatives. What'll happen in those cases is they will be sued, and they'll be sued for damages on top of it. So my recommendation to them: you need to sell this house and be done with it, and then you need to correct whatever it was that you didn't want in terms of not being why you didn't want to sell it. And in their case, he was trying to claim that there was a bankruptcy on his record that was paid off, not according to title. Not according to title. So you can't at the 11th hour decide you don't want to sell it because you weren't aware of something that you should have been aware of. And they've already released all their contingencies because you demanded that. So now you're on the hook. So if you truly believe that this bankruptcy, and I know you're lying, but if you truly believe that this bankruptcy is not supposed to be on there, you can take that up with the bank afterwards. But the money it will cost you to be sued and cover all the lawyer's fees will far outweigh what that bankruptcy amount is. Moving on. So yeah, the sellers get really helped with the task, whereas buyers can pull out for really any, I don't say any reason, but 3 different reasons up until all the contingencies are released. And Julie, what are those reasons? 3 things. You had 3 hurdles. I would say it's 3 hurdles to jump through.
Contingency, appraisal,
Instead of saying contingency, say inspections. So you've got inspections, appraisals, and loans. If you can, the best advice I can give you is when you first start working with a buyer, ensure, and if they're really like, yeah, we definitely want to buy, we're not just sniffing around, we definitely need to buy, tell them the best position I can put you in is to be completely document underwritten approval. If they're buying something that's not like $1.8 million or something crazy, as long as it's on a jumbo line. If you get them through document underwritten, which means, I've even gone as far as creating a template for my buyers when I have buyers, is say, this is what the loan, this is not even you, this is what the loan officer is going to ask of you. I give them this whole list. Bank statements, taxes, everything the loan officer is going to need, I give them that. To have this prepared so that when the loan officer gives them their little link to add in all their stuff, they're ready and they have all their stuff in order. Okay? And then what happens in document underwriting is each one of those tasks that he's asking of you, the underwriters will go through line by line, and every time something gets reviewed and signed off on, they'll eliminate that one item until they're all eliminated, and then you are fully approved, basically. What makes the difference on that? You're putting an offer, you're putting an offer. Your document underwriting approval, you're not. You're not really a risk unless something else comes up. Only thing is like if something, the roof is falling apart. And 9 times out of 10, we can usually fix that with what? Credits and money, right? Yours, I'm not sure. Right? We have to get down to that 17th day before I find out whether or not that loan can really go through or not. That to me makes me nervous as a seller and as a seller's agent. If you're exactly the same on everything else, you've got document, you're both approved, right? But you have document underwriting approval, I'm going to choose hers. Even if I liked you better, I'm going to choose hers. Or I'm going to say, how far are you in the process? Oh, they just started. They just put their documents in. If you're like, hey, they got all their documents in, maybe a day or 2. I can buy 48 hours worth of time, and then I'm looking at a completely equal offer. Then what might do it? Then I look at the little things. If there's any difference in contingency releases, if there's anything in terms of the agent himself or herself and how they presented themselves or the offer. Also, I look at how, I look at the buyer's agents and how they conducted themselves in terms of the kind of questions they asked. Don't be problematic up front. Don't ask a billion questions up front. And educate your clients. Say, we can figure all that out in your due diligence process. That's really important. Well, we need to know how old the roof is before we put an offer. No, you don't. You will never get a chance to find that out because your offer's not going to get accepted if you start asking that stuff up front. And I always tell them the 4 things that are most expensive to you are foundation, roofing, electrical, and plumbing. Those 4 things. So as soon as we get an offer accepted, we're going to dig in and take a look and make sure there's no problems there. Okay? If we find there's a problem there, we can say, oh, wow, okay, well, you guys are aware that there's a big plumbing issue. Well, yeah, but you release contingency on inspection, that's okay, we're not gonna ask for anything back, but we have to walk. We can't deal with this. But if you guys are gonna give us 10 grand or something, then we can, have a conversation. 9 times out of 10, they'll keep working with you. So I'm not saying you can roll the dice, but be willing to walk away and make sure the buyers understand that if they give up the contingency on inspection and something comes up and the sellers want to play hardball, if they've got 5 or 6 other offers, they're gonna go pound sand, we'll take the next one. So be really careful when you're negotiating those things.
So, when you say, the buyers are basically assessing and investigating the property, on the contract, it states that's 17 days, right? So you can modify it the way you
Absolutely, I give you
want.
10 days only.
And then you have like 12 days to have an inspector and actually check the house, just make sure that plumbing, electrical, and
You have however many days they give you. So watch it.
you can back up during those days?
No, that's why the contract negotiation is so critical in the beginning.
Okay,
So when you as a buyer's agent are putting that in, okay, and 9 times out of 10, and you guys are all new, so you wouldn't even think to bring those down, right? You would just submit it with your price and your down payment
right.
and hope for the best. I'm gonna counter you, and I'm gonna say you have 7 days for inspection. That's nothing. 7 days is really tight, which means that you better have a phone call to your inspector the next day. I also require you to get the appraisal ordered within 3 days. I also require you to get your deposit in within 48 hours of putting an offer into me. So why am I doing that? I'm pushing you really hard in the beginning to make sure that your buyers aren't looking to lose.
Okay.
Okay, so I want money, gives you 3 days, I even back that down, just 48 hours. And be very careful when you do that in your negotiations, because if you say 48 hours and it's a Friday, you're looking at Wednesday of next week, because they don't count the Saturday and Sunday. I do. I tell you it's due Monday at noon. Okay, so make sure that you're putting dates in versus hours with those dates. Or if it says 7 days, they're not gonna count the weekends. So if you really want it to be 7 days, look at what date it is 7 days from now, giving them the weekend and saying, boom, that's your hard stop on inspections. So if they get in, and it's a good question that you're saying, like, what if we get into it and we find more stuff? What do? Don't panic, because if you get into it and you find, let's say, a house on a hill, good example, and you're gonna know this as you get deeper into it, but houses on the hill or on any hill many times have what are called French drains. It's a hole that goes like the top of the house, goes underneath the house, and it drains water out the bottom. If that's not clear, it can cause puddling up at the top of the house, and it can flood the house or cause your foundation to get mushy. Okay, so that'd be on any kind of a hill. What happens in the summertime here? Does it rain? No. In the fall? No. Hardly ever rains here, right? So what goes into those drains? Birds, nests, trees, leaves, right? They get clogged. So make sure that if you have a house on a hill, you request a drain scope or an additional inspection. Or ask your buyer, this is what happens commonly with houses on a hill. Are you comfortable putting in your offer, or would you like a drain scope? Okay. And that'll usually come up in your inspection. So your inspector is there to do a general inspection. He will not tell you your roof needs a new roof. He will not tell you you need a drain scope, but what he will say is you might want to seek additional professional for this. If there's anything possibly wrong with the plumbing, you're like, yep, it's leaking a little bit here, you might want to seek the professional. Now be very careful as a first-time buyer or a first-time buyer's agent, don't get your buyers worked up to where they think they need a plumber and an electrician and a roofer, and they need like a specialist for every single kind of thing. Grab an ELC person, we're gonna help walk you through, like, you're not getting that, you're probably gonna get this is gonna be roughly this much money. So you start getting comfortable with knowing roughly how much it is to fix something. Roofs, really anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000 for a brand new roof. Kitchens, $10,000 a remodel. Bathrooms, $7,000 to $8,000 for redo. So if there's something wrong with plumbing, it always gets cracked foundation. People equate it to a salvaged frame in a car. Can you still drive the car? Sure. Is it valuable to somebody? Sure. Can a cracked foundation be fixed? Sure. It's about 10 grand to fix a cracked foundation. So to me, it's not a deal killer. It just means that there's a cracked foundation. It's gonna cost them about 10 grand to fix that. Maybe 15 or 18 if they have to pull up all the rugs. And what they do is they make it look like, you see that little Sally, it's a Christmas cartoon, and I think her name is Sally, and she does like the little stitches. It looks like that. They drill a hole in it, they crack it, they open it up, they fill it, and they stitch it up, and they sand it, and it's done. So it looks like little stitches on the foundation. So a cracked foundation does not necessarily mean it's a deal killer. Now, if you have a cracked foundation on a post and pillar home, that's a whole different story. Post and pillar would be where? My favorite place, North Park. I always say that, so there's so many issues in North Park. So if it's post and pillar, you could have a couple of different problems causing that cracked foundation because it's sitting on stilts. So if your stilts are in a foundation, is it because the stilts have started to degrade, or is it because the soil underneath them is starting to get mushy and it's starting to sink? If you have a house that's sinking, you better hope it's sinking all at once, but it doesn't do that, does it? It goes, right? A good indication of that when you're walking through a home is you see cracks on the wall that go over to the ceiling. On the baseboard outside of the home, at the very bottom, there's that like 4 inches of cement. You see a crack going all the way up, and you see that same crack on the inside. That's an indication it could be. And again, not your job to figure that out. That's the inspector's job. And they will say, you know, they'll point out cracks, and if they feel that there's a possible foundation issue, they will say, recommended that a foundation specialist take a look at it. Okay. So you never want to tell a client, no, oh, you're going to be fine. No, let that be their decision. And as far as recommending additional experts, I always recommend 3. If I haven't worked with them personally, I don't recommend them. Because what if you get somebody like, oh yeah, it's fine. They buy the house and the place falls apart and the foundation was no good. Keep yourself out of liability. We've covered a lot of this as we're talking. Let's go through here. We've already talked about this, so you're negotiating with 2 people, right? Julie. One side is the buyer, right? And then the other side is seller's agent. Mm-hmm. You never talk to this, don't ever talk to the seller agent. I mean, don't ever talk to the seller, ever, no matter what, or even their agent. Stay away from the house. I can't tell you how much that's happening right now, where people go, oh, I hope it's okay, we just stopped. What do you mean you stopped by and brought them cookies? No, you cannot engage with the seller, especially before an offer is accepted, because that's considered coercion. No, don't do that. So when you're saying, can they reach out to the buyer? No, the buyers can't reach out to the agent either, although they do. So they shouldn't. Anything that you do because I'll tell you where that really comes into play. Let's say I find out that your buyers came over and talked to the sellers, and my buyers are going for the same house too. I'm going to go after you as an agent because your buyers were over there talking to the sellers, and my buyers wanted the same thing too, and that would be considered coercion. So that's not fair to me. See what I'm saying? So you want to keep your buyers away from the homes, even if they're tempted to do so. Drive-by only, but if they're occupied, do not engage with people. But I was just walking my dog and I'm in this. Stop it. They'll come up with all sorts of reasons to say hello. Okay, common points of negotiation. We've already talked about that, right? Most likely is always going to be price, and then the other is going to be terms. So Sheldon, give me an example of terms. What might be considered a term?
A term, as in like when you place a...
When you're negotiating your offer.
Oh.
It's price or terms. Those are the only 2 things to negotiate, right?
Yeah, the terms. I don't know. It could be,
We touched on a couple of them.
I want the refrigerator and that.
Ooh, then that's a whole other ballgame. Why is that a different ballgame? Is a refrigerator a piece of real estate?
No.
It's considered personal property, right? And that's one of those weird gray areas because it's part of the house if it is what, Stacy?
Attached.
Boom, bolted down. Okay, here's where it gets tricky. There was a TV there at one point. TV's not bolted down, the frame is. So we have sometimes buyers like, where's all the TVs? Well, that belonged to the seller, those are not attached. Well, they were attached when we walked through the house. No, the frame was attached. TVs are not. Fridges are not. Wine coolers are not. Spas are not. Although they just put spas in. So know your contract because they change. They did change and put spas in. And I'm like, you're really gonna move a spa out that's not considered permanent property? But it's not. It's not bolted down, not bolted in. Another one is Bluetooth speaker systems. If they're hardwired in, they stay with the house.
No way.
Yep, they can't take them with them. And where that gets tricky is a lot of times people think they're hardwired in, but they've just done the wires through and they plug them in. Which is again, my person that could have gotten everything, they took those too because they were so pissed. They took everything they could because they were so mad. So make sure that if it's not bolted down, you ask for it. If you don't ask for it, you cannot cry that it is not there, and I guarantee you, you will be spending money out of your pocket to keep your buyer happy when you replace their fridge. Okay. So other terms might be, it says either financial, time-based, or both. So terms would be, like we talked about, would your sellers like 2 weeks rent back? And does everybody know what rent back is? Okay, So you're selling your home. You need a little time to get it. You have all these knickknacks that you need to individually package up, right? So you're gonna need like at least 2 weeks before you move out. So escrow is 30 days, and then you need another 2 weeks after that. So you in effect are gonna sell your home, and then you're going to rent it back from the new buyers. So you're paying to rent your house back to stay there an extra 2 weeks. So the way they figure out that dollar amount is called PITI. And what that is, it's the mortgage and the insurance broken down for 30 days, and it gives you a dollar amount of what you pay per day. And it's estimated because you may want, leave in 13 days and don't need all 17. But it's gotta be up right around that dollar amount. Now,
That's for the seller.
that is for the seller, but it's terms that the buyer's agent would say, this is what I do. It's 2 weeks, you're talking about $800, $900, maybe $1,000. Why don't we many times I've gotten offers accepted by somebody, what do they need, 2 weeks? But they appreciate just having that and won't even charge them. Rent back at no charge to seller. It's a big one. And again, you wouldn't think about that, but the only reason I thought about it is somebody wrote it on one of my listings. We go, cool, we'll take that. So it's rent back at no charge to seller. Be very careful and make sure that you understand that your buyers are still paying their mortgage, and then they're gonna be paying for 2 more weeks for the sellers to be able to stay there. Can't get resentful. This is how we got this for you, okay?
Kind of free rent
Free rent
for the seller.
for the seller.
Okay.
Here's what's really
Can
important.
that be negotiated?
Sure.
Negotiated in the fact that, the seller's gonna be paying?
Correct, that's what we were just talking about.
Okay.
So if you say seller rent back at no charge to the seller, they're renting it back, but they're not spending anything on it. Or I think by contract, they spend $1.
Okay, at no charge.
Yeah, no charge. Yeah, if
It
it's 2
just
weeks or
looks good
less,
on you.
it looks really good for the buyer's agent. Make sure your buyer's okay with that. And then it's really good for the sellers because they get those 2 weeks if they wanted. They don't have to worry about paying. They have to do one-offs per day or anything like that. Here's where it gets important. Make sure that you have your home insurance set up, because if that current owner falls and breaks their skull, guess who's liable? The new owners. Because they in effect become tenants or sellers in possession. Now, what's the difference between a seller in possession and a tenant in possession? It's kind of a trick question, because it sounds like the same thing, right?
That's
Okay.
Liability.
It's the difference between paying and not paying. So if the sellers are still in possession, if it's, I think it's 21 days, it's a certain number of days. If they're gonna be in possession longer than that, then you have to have an additional form, which is the seller's in possession form. It shows that they're staying in possession. If you have people that live there that are not the owners, and they're renting from the owners, and you buy it, and their tenants are in there, that is a tenant in possession. The thing is that tenants have different rights than sellers. So you can have a tenant in possession that all of a sudden decides that rates are really expensive out there, there's nowhere to go, I'm just gonna stay here.
Squatter.
And then you have a squatter. And they can take you up to 6 months to get them out of the,
A seller renting the ring, they can't do that.
seller's got their money, they're gone. It's you as a buyer's agent that are then dealing with that. So now the new owners are responsible for getting those tenant squatters out of the building.
Even if it's a seller renting agreement.
No, that's different. So the seller in possession, that's the seller having an agreement to move, they will almost always move. A tenant in possession, they have different rules that protect them.
Okay.
So they can have squatters' laws protecting them. Sellers don't have that, but the tenants do. So the tenants have been there, and it's also, there's also rules about how much notice they have to be given based on how many years they've been into place. So if you're a buyer's agent working and negotiating an offer for your buyers and there's a tenant in possession, don't skip that step. Make sure that you have that tenant in possession paperwork, and make sure that you find out how long the tenant's been there. See if you can get a little backstory on that. Drive by the house. If it looks like a crack house, could be a whole different story of what you're dealing with. Okay, crack houses are still great buys for investors. You know what I do with crack houses? I have them condemned. Yep, I have the health department come in. There's literally the scariest, well, I was gonna say the scariest showing I ever did. This guy that had a needle in his arm on the couch. And that was before I went to North Park and found a bloody handprint smeared on the wall. I'm like, yeah, we're out of here. So you're gonna get some crazy stuff, right? But if there's actual drugs going on, the drugs weren't the problem. The way I got them is that they had busted their toilet, took the toilet out, so the water wasn't working. Bing, health hazard, I'm done. City came in, sheriff's were there next day, got them out. So just know your rules. And so if you ever end up with anything like that, just ask me. Stacey.
2 questions. So for the rent back, would there ever be a situation where like the buyer wasn't okay with it and then you agreed to pay for it?
Hell no.
No.
Well, I've never done that. The way that you would do that, it depends on how much it is. You gotta have limits because you're gonna find in the first couple of years, you're giving away the baby with the bathwater just to get the deal done, right? Well, it's the difference of having $6,000 and having no money. Okay, I'll pay the rent. I mean, you start negotiating with yourself on what's okay and what's not okay. Is it possible? Yes. But the way that's done, technically, the right way, is if you, as an agent, would be giving the buyers a buyer credit. Right. Can't do that, because that messes up all your lending. So what you're doing is actually doing a gentleman's agreement off the record. You'd be paying out of pocket, outside of the transaction after it closes. So that's the way you could do it. I would highly recommend not doing that. If they're worried about that little bit of, because first off, if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. But the question is, why don't they want to do it? If they don't want to do it just because they don't have the money and I have the money and I think it's worth it, I'd consider that. But if they're worried about that's really minimal compared to the big giant chunk of money they're putting out for a house, I'd be concerned if they didn't want to do that. Unless they just thought, no, we're not doing that. We don't want to do that. Well, that's what it's going to take to get the house. Really, it's kind of minimal in the big scope of things, right? But if they really don't want to do that, I would never go against what the buyers want, just so I could get the deal done. Okay. Have I paid credits before because the buyer wanted a credit and the seller wasn't going to give it to them? Yes. Again, same crazy person. So there are unique situations where it comes up and you're like, ah! Where I've just done things where I'm like, that's it, then I'm never doing that again. But it was my choice, and I had the choice not to pay the credit. And what would have happened is then I would have had a problem with the 11th hour, and then it would have probably not sold, and it would have been an arbitration, and I weighed that headache against the $5,000 I paid.
And the other question I had was about the tenant in possession. So about a year or so ago, my mom was interested in a property in La Mesa, and I went to, this was before I was licensed, I was studying. So I went to the property with the agent, and the tenant was in there, and he did just about everything to deter me from wanting to take. I mean, he was bad mouthing the property. Oh, well, this doesn't work, and that doesn't work, and
oh my gosh.
I mean, it was pretty bad, and I felt bad for the agent.
Wait a minute, you went in with your.
He wasn't supposed to be there.
How did you get in if you were licensed yet?
I was kind of like the client, like going as like a client.
By yourself without an agent?
No, I met the listing agent.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, I met the listing agent there, and then she showed me the property, and the tenant was not supposed to be there. Not only was he there, but his kid was there. His kid was asleep in one of the bedrooms.
And that's special.
And I mean, the place was crowded. It was like a mess, and he was just kind of, oh, the plumbing's bad, and this, and he was going on and on. And my mom was kind of checking it online, and it took about 9 months before she saw that the place was sold. So that kind of scared me. I'm like, well, what happens like when I'm licensed and if I get a listing like that where there's a tenant and they can't get it, because he was month to month at that time.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, what do you do in that situation?
You'd be very honest. So if you know that you have a tenant in there and they're a hostile tenant, you tell your buyer's agent that, hey, just letting you know, there's a hostile tenant in there. They don't want to leave. They're going to be giving you every reason not to buy the house because they don't want to have to move out. Mm-hmm. Here are all the things they're going to tell you. Knowing all those things, are you still interested in seeing this house?
Yeah.
I get ahead of it. That way, the plumbing might need a little work or this or that. Whatever he's going to say, you've already said it. So knowing all those things is still something you're interested in, and you may have to discount the price a little bit. You're going to have to because it won't sell otherwise, and that's something to go back to. The listing agent should know that too, and it could be also that the seller's like, it shouldn't have taken that long, because if she knows she's got a problematic tenant in there, she knows she has two choices: sell it for cash to an investor at less, or take less from a regular person knowing that they're going to have to be dealing with this guy. Either way, you're taking less money, and it was because they didn't want to lower that price if it sat on the market that long.
Yeah, because it sold for kind of close to what the
Yeah.
asking price was, it kind of held. It went down, I think it sold for like maybe $2,000 less.
Yeah, they finally ended up, they got the needle in the haystack of the person that wanted it enough to where they were, they were gonna deal with it, but
That was
otherwise.
the first like open house experience that
Oh, you poor thing.
I ever had. I mean, I wasn't licensed, but I was just going on my mom's behalf.
Wow.
That was terrible.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff out there. I used to think, first house I ever went to when I was on the team, because I wasn't licensed yet, but I could see my team's showings because they had their team code, right? So I went into the house, I'm like, it was a hoarder house. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It was so creepy. I was so afraid something with a face was gonna jump out at me because it was literally, you could barely walk through it. And I was like, oh my God, I don't wanna work for this guy. This is gross. I want like luxury houses and what's happening here? And let me tell you, like 50 investors wanted it. So you learn very quickly that anything will sell at the right price.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I would love a house like that because I've got, investor pools and people that want those, and the dirtier, uglier, more hoarder, more crack house looking house, they'll just tear it down and make it new. But yeah, it's interesting the different levels of homes that you're gonna see out there. Okay, so we've covered a ton of materials. Some of your ahas up to this point, any good nuggets?
A lot of them. A lot of them.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is there, I don't know if it's in this like presentation or if I missed it maybe in yesterday's night, but like a list of negotiating points. Is there like a list of that?
You mean, are you like talking about objections and objection handlers?
No, I guess just what's in like what you can. How do you know what to negotiate when there's so much?
Good point. So go back to those two things, price and terms. So price is obvious, right?
Yeah.
I'll offer you this much or I'm not. Terms is everything else on that sheet when you're writing that offer,
Okay,
on that first sheet.
okay.
So that'll be-
at the offer sheet.
Right. If you go by that offer sheet, so that's gonna be your contingency time. You're gonna negotiate time, so you can bring those times down. You can negotiate, the down payment doesn't really matter as much. It's really not a big deal. But why that will be a big deal to a seller, I'm gonna look at, let's say Joel's putting down 25% and Stacy's putting down 10%. Why might that matter to me? If I have all you guys with offers in front of me, and you're all equal except I've got a couple people at 20, 25, and 10, then the people at 25%, if none of you waived your appraisal, that one's the one I'm gonna pick. Why? They're all qualified, right? Well, because many times if it's 25% or down more, the lenders will do a desk appraisal or a waiver on appraisal. Okay? And if he's got 25% down and it doesn't come up at value, chances are we can move that cash around a little bit to cover the, so it's time on your contingencies. It would be rent back. So again, that's time. And then, so it's inspection, appraisal, loan, and then really the only other negotiations there would be, like I said, rent back already. So inspection, appraisal, loans, those are your contingencies, and that's all time. And then it would be rent back, things you could offer more. Credits, you could offer credit, like really stay out of that because you start opening up your wallet and they'll take all of it. As an agent, stay out of that. Your job is to negotiate the deal. You don't see lawyers giving up their money if something doesn't go a certain way, or like go pound sand, right? So it's mainly price and terms, and the terms are all time. It's generally time or money or a combination of both. And when I say combination of both, it would be like a rent back. So you're giving them time for money or no money. Okay, so those are your terms. But if you take that first sheet, and just what I really suggest, write a mock offer like you had a buyer today, whenever you can, as soon as you can within the next week. That's like your homework for me, is just write an offer and submit it to me. I'm your fictitious listing agent. You can make it for San Diego State, just pull up an address out of the air and send it to me, and I'll be your listing agent. I won't say anything, I'll counter you on it, and then I'll see how you react to the counter. Okay, that's good practice too.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna, don't make yourself crazy about trying to be perfect on it too, because you're gonna miss things. I want you to miss them so we can go back and say, ooh, you forgot to check this one little box, such as the spa box, right? That means I get to keep my spa because you didn't say that you wanted it. It used to be you have to actually say I want the fridge, the stove, and all that, because technically they can take it with them. It's not bolted in. So I'd be really mad if the fridge and the stove and all my appliances were gone, but unless it's the microwave that's bolted in, that's all I'm left with. You didn't ask for it. I've seen it happen. So, okay. You're welcome.
And again, what was your email? Nikki Francis?
Nikki at NikkiFrancis.com.
Okay, Nikki nikki.francis.com.
So now we're on to the 3 P's of negotiation. And that's prepare, present, and position. So Joel, would you read the prepare portion for us, please?
Of course. Preparation is the key to building confidence and ensuring a smooth negotiation process.
And Sheldon, present.
Present, move into the negotiation process by presenting the offer.
Okay. And Stacy.
Position, move both parties closer until you have full agreement.
Sounds easy enough, right? So your preparation is what we talked about. The first thing you do with your buyers is a buyer consultation, in which they're gonna lay out all your expectations. And then that's your prep, right? Part of that prep is also calling the listing agent and gathering whatever facts you can. Can't always get everything, but always try. Because if you don't, you're gonna be nervous doing it. You're like, oh my gosh, what do you think? I remember a very, very first sale, and I called him. I was so nervous because I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was so terrified he was going to ask me a question I didn't know because I didn't know anything. And we ended up negotiating on one little thing. It was like the fridge. He goes, well, what if I give you credit for this? I said, so if I give you credit for that, you'd accept our offer? He was sure. I'm like, okay. And I got off the phone and I had this big happy. I was like, oh my God, I didn't die. I negotiated. It was great. And that's what made me think, I'm a great negotiator. I sucked. But I thought it was great because my first little negotiation went well, right? Learn to love negotiation. The people that negotiate get all the deals done because it's speed and it's making everybody happy. Negotiation is just the glue that keeps this ship and this ship together. So you're all in that common goal, okay? And then the present is you're just presenting your package. Now keep it clean. I can't tell you how many times I get calls from agents at 10 o'clock at night. Oh my gosh, I screwed up and I forgot to do this and should I resubmit? It's 10 o'clock at night. So if you're doing you screwed up, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. That's what addendums are for, okay? If the person's name is wrong, if it's supposed to be the name of a trust, catch it early, get it fixed up in an addendum. I'm not saying be sloppy, be so fast that you're sloppy. I'm saying do your due diligence, take your time. If you catch something after the fact and it's outside of business hours, don't badger that listing agent because that is gonna make you look bad. Just put it out there. They're gonna notice if something's wrong, trust me. Oh, I noticed that you're putting 75% down. Is that correct? No, I meant to put 25% down. Okay. Whatever it is. Always make a complete offer when you present it, which is offer, proof of funds, and pre-approval.
Those 3.
What's that?
Those 3.
Those 3. If you don't bring me those, I won't look at your offer.
Oh.
Yeah, we won't get it. And you won't get another chance to get it to me because you sent me. Unless we've had a conversation. I know you now, right? Hey Nick, I get these really great buyers. They're not quite proved yet, but they're almost there. They really, really love this house. They really want to submit it, but are holding anything else? Would they have a chance at it? If I sent it in, I've done those. I've got offers accepted. I had no business getting accepted because just had a conversation. And they're not ready yet. I don't want to, blow smoke up your guys. They're almost there, but they really love this house. When they drove by, they weren't even planning on putting in an offer, and they fell in love with it. And we're just getting started on the process, but if we sped that up for you, do we have a week? I'm not saying hold it for us, but if somebody came in and wrote an offer tomorrow, I know you'd take it, but do you think we have a little time? And they're like, yeah, sellers are not, they'd rather get the right offer than sell it fast. Or the answer could have been, nope, they gotta buy this other place, and they need their money now, so don't bother. Okay? And then just listen to their deal. And then positioning yourself, of course, is just exactly that. You're moving closer, just like bringing the ships together. With every negotiation, you're moving closer. So, Miss Julie, would you read the prepare portion?
Yes. Number 1, know your goal. Number 2, know your client. Number 3, think ahead. Number 4, set clear expectations. Number 5, be informed. Number 6, obey the laws. And number 7, know the documents inside and out.
Very simple. If you follow that golden rule, you'll be great. And that is not just in the buyer consultation, but that's a good thing to look at before you go into the buyer consultation. The thinking ahead means we know what's going on in the market right now, right? We know that the rates are they're not going to go anywhere. We know that buyers are coming out in droves. It's going to happen again. We're going to have another, like it was in March of last year. People around the block, they said it could even be busier. Now, nobody watching the news thinks that can happen. Right? Like, we're in a recession. It's a great depression. Just no. If you're looking at the actual facts, it's telling us that it's going to be another frenzy. So that's what you need to communicate to your buyers. Like, I know that you guys are getting all this information from all these sources, but would you rather base your decisions on fact or speculation? That's speculation. This is fact. We have the facts. There's no inventory out there. There's going to be a frenzy. People are getting used to these rates. They're coming out to buy.
Yep.
There's still no inventory that's going to catch up with them. So let's get ahead of the game. Let's get an offer now before we're standing in line and you're overspending. Because I tell you what, you can't not overspend a house if you're spending too much money, but you can buy down your rate later on. Okay? So get in there now, pay your higher percentage rate, refinance later on down the line, but don't overspend on your house. Thank you, Ms. Stacy.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, is it the same slide? It's the same slide, yeah, double sided. All right, asking purposeful questions. Joel, you want to read this one? Starting with provides you with the points.
Provide you with the points you will negotiate on. Alright.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's fine. And it provides insights on when you and your client will have leverage, sets clear expectations, allows you to know your client and their goal, help you learn what will make it a win-win negotiation for both parties.
No problem. So we'll do this a little easier. I'm your buyer. I'm a new buyer. Hi, Joel. I just saved up and I want to get my first house. And can I talk to you over coffee?
Yes, great.
Awesome.
I'm happy to hear that.
Okay, great. Now we're having our coffee. That in the car. I'm like, you got extra hot. So you're gonna ask me a couple questions, right?
Oh yes. So are you current? When have you started looking for some? How long have you been looking for homes?
Well, we've been thinking about it for a while, but probably in the last 2 months is when we've really gotten serious about it. Because we're renting. We've been renting for a while. We figured it's about time. And someone's told us we could get a USDA loan if we bought out in Julian, so we're looking at that.
Okay, awesome. And what is your price range right now?
I don't know. We really haven't started to jump in that. You know, what do you think they are out there, Julian?
They're anywhere between, well, they vary, but from what I've seen them at $650 all the way up to $900.
Wow, I don't know. Maybe we need to put more time into this. Let me get some more money down. I don't know. Gosh, we thought they were more like in the 4s. Let me go back and talk to my husband and we'll set another appointment, okay? I know it's okay. I did it purposely. I'm like, oh God, I hate her because she makes us do role play. But I threw you a curveball, which is absolutely true. We are looking in Julian. We really are. We're really looking at a USDA loan, which actually is a no money down, all closing cost paid loan. How can we get that? We're out there in farmland, USDA, right? So that's a special loan. So the first thing I caught you off guard is because I didn't even know it existed when I first started looking into it. You wouldn't know it exists. So it's okay if you hear terms that you don't know about. Say USDA loan, I don't know what that is. All I'm going to be saying, sure, I'm taking notes. That's all I'm doing is gathering data, right? And like, I don't know, how much are they out there? I don't know, why don't we jump on and see? If you really don't know, they're in the 400s.
Okay.
So that was very affordable. All of a sudden I went from, I want to buy because I think I can get a no money down loan in the 400s. I'm like, oh, they're 800, okay. So without knowing versus answer the question and take a guess at it, go, you know, I'm not sure, let's go see. That's just the same thing when a listing and a seller goes, well, I want to get 800,000. I'd love to get that for you. Let's jump on and see what the market will hold. It's not me anymore. I'm not telling you no. I'm saying, unless pigs are going to fly anytime soon, the market's not going to hold that price, right? So use the data to help support your claims. And in the very, very least, if you don't know, if you're not sure, say, I'm not sure, let's see what that looks like right now. Because the market is changing pretty swiftly, so you guys might get into a situation like that. Okay, Sheldon, I'm trying to find a house. Gosh, I don't know. The first, I didn't say problem, first challenge would have been, I'm sitting here by myself and I said, we. That was just a test. But the we is, the one question I was looking for, I'm not going to tell you because I want you to say it. Sheldon, go. I'm sitting down with you. It's our first meeting and I'm super excited because I just got this new job, which is awesome. And we're just getting to the point where we can afford a new house. So yeah, we're kind of looking at the clear line you're in.
Oh, nice. How long have you been looking for?
Like, I don't know, like 4 years, but I think we're finally at the point where, you know, we saw this one that came up and it had this like white picket fence and it was really cute. So we thought, you know, why not, you know, try happening.
Oh, that's awesome. Have you guys been pre-approved yet?
No, but you know, I just got this new job, so I'm sure it'll be great because I'm making all this money now.
Oh, I see. Sometimes you have to stay at your job for longer than 2 years, so we have to
really?
check on that first. Yes. How many people are going to be in the title?
My husband and
Oh, nice. Is it just you two? Do you guys have any family? Or?
none that I talk to anymore.
Oh, okay. Why that particular area?
It's kind of central. We like it because it's close to all the freeways, and we have a dog, and there's a park nearby, and we have 2 kids that are going in high school, and we figured that, UC is a decent school district. I don't know, what do you think about the school district there?
Well, I have no idea, to be honest, but I mean, like, I can supply you with some information about that. So
Okay.
And, well, okay, nice. What are you comfortable paying a monthly basis?
We're paying like $2,200 right now in rent, so we'd like to try to see if we can keep our mortgage around the same thing.
And what's the max you're paying?
2,200.
2,700? Ooh, that's gonna be a little rough
Is
if you don't have a major down payment for it.
What do you think as far as down payment?
Well, easily, it has to be at least 20% down.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you because you're getting yourself in the weeds. You're getting deep into the financials. The first meeting, I like you, you like me. It's Barney. Okay, it's all Barney. You're just establishing rapport. Keep it light, keep it soft, keep it nice. Talk about amenities. Not even talking money yet. The first clue you got it, which was, I just got this great new job. First question would be, is it in the same field you've been in? If it's the same field, you're good. If it's a whole new job, you're right. You're absolutely right. Sometimes it takes a while. Because if it's a new job, even though you're making more money, it's a new job in a new field. It's looked at, which totally is not fair, but it's looked like as a new job. So unless it's in the same industry, then it may affect your lending. And you wouldn't know this unless you've run into it, right? So those are great questions. And then I'd leave it at that. I'd say, okay, let's start with that. But before you even get into the whole pre-approval and how much you want to spend, I don't even feel like you yet. I don't know if I'm engaged. You want to bring that rapport in. Okay, and we heard already when you were out, wife was talking behind your back, saying you're the social butterfly and you're the engaging guy. So I'm sure you do that naturally. Yeah. But roll more into so versus you did ask who else is making the decision. It's just me and my hubs. My husband's not working. That would be something important to know. So one of the things like, hey, are you both working? You can get into we'll get into the pre-qualification because that's the first thing we'll want you to do. But before then, you'll tell me a little bit about what's important for you in this house. So you're making me paint the picture of Fido having a yard to play in, and Sally and Jesse going to whatever school, and it's close by. I work in La Jolla, so it's only 10 minutes from there. So I'm going to spew you all the things that are important to me about the buy, because the money is going to make people do what? Even though they're prepared, they're still like, I'm scared to spend money. But I want all this stuff, because what do we always do? We bring them back to their why, right? So you want to try to keep the money end of it. Don't get too detailed. Let your lender do all that, right? Like the first thing we're going to do is if we get all done, okay, the next thing they'll ask is sort of like, so in a perfect world, when would you like to see yourself in your new home, right? And if you say, oh, like 6 months or 3 months would be awesome. Great. And again, I guess the only question would be then, do you feel comfortable with me? Would you like to work with me to get that done? Only once did I have somebody say, well, I go, well, I said, actually, let me ask, are you interviewing anyone else for this position? And it's a fair question. And she said, yeah, I know, well, actually, this gal at work, I broke my tailbone, that's why I'm like, I know I'm not wreck, I'm just a broken nest. She was, this gal at work, we've been talking to, and I felt like really bad. I go, no problem, I completely understand loyalty. If you want to talk with her, bring her into the mix or interview her, she's, oh, we really like you. I'm like, that's okay. I'm doing the takeaway, right? That's okay. I don't want them to feel pressure to choose me. Because if anything goes south, what do you think they're going to say? I should have chosen that person, right? Yeah, it's good. She goes, okay, I really like you. That's all right. I said, well, I actually only take 3 clients on a month, and I have 2, so you just need to get back to me kind of soon, right? She said, oh, we need to let you know. I go, well, today would be great. She goes, okay, we'll pick you. She really wanted to, but she didn't want to upset this other person. And I said, that's okay. Make sure that you're talking to her. She said, no, we definitely want you. The more I would take it away, the more she'd want to look at it. Yeah, so it was really cute. And she ended up being one of my best clients. Absolutely love her. But yeah, it's kind of, you never know who they're talking to. So it's a very important question when you're talking with your buyers. Always ask, is there anyone else that you're considering for this role? Is there anyone else that you're interviewing? Okay. And a lot of times they have somebody, because everybody is an agent in San Diego. So then with somebody at work or a family member that's into it. And then put a deadline on it, you know, because I really do only take a certain number of new clients each month. And I'm interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me, right? Because you don't want a problematic pain in the booty client. I don't take everybody. I really don't take everybody. And I don't take you for your friend or family. And that's when you'll set all your clear expectations and get all that stuff done. So in those interviews, y'all know open-ended questions and closed-ended questions, right? Just from general life in general. So what would a closed-ended question be?
Like a yes and no.
Correct. Closed-ended question would be like a one-word answer. Like, am I wearing a purple dress? Yes, I am. An open-ended question?
Am I wearing sunglasses?
No, but that's a closed-ended question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So a question that would evoke a single answer is a closed, because there's no further conversation. Think of close the conversation down.
Yeah, you just said
An
that.
an open-ended conversation would be like who, what, where, why. It's all like whys. Why? It's a kid in the backseat. But why? Because that conversation never ends, right? But why? They've got a why to the why. So why is always a good one. Biggest things in home ownership. What's important to you in this purchase? You know, tell me what's important to you. What would it look like if you had this need your family? Get on the underbelly of the emotion of what, you know, what this means to them. And if they have kids, if they're going to will it to their kids and create generational wealth for them. And if it's military, I'll tell you one of the biggest things I've done for military is I call it the 1, 2, 3, 4 program. And it's because most of our military doesn't maximize their VA loans. So you will get military clients at some point in your career because you're in San Diego. And I'm going to start out with them getting their first home. Within 2 years, I put them into a duplex. When they move into the duplex, they rent out their first one. They're renting out the second side of their second one. And 2 years later, I put them into a triplex or a fourplex, a quad. Now they're renting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they retire when they're 55. Those are great programs, especially for single military guys. Even if they have a family, you can still do it as long as you're willing to sacrifice a little on space and you're willing to move into that. Some people are really like, yeah, I'm all about like, I can retire when 35 and I'll live in a small space, sure. Do whatever it takes to do to buy property right now. Let me tell you, you won't be living in San Diego. So those open-ended questions are basically questions that foster additional conversation. Okay? Some examples of those would be, what would happen if? And you kind of anticipate the next steps of the negotiation. Why is this important to you? So you're opening that back up. The what would happen if, that comes in play very much in the counteroffer stages when the sellers have countered more money or more terms or something, and your buyers are then putting the brakes on and getting nervous about it and say, what would happen if they came back with $825,000? Or what, because usually I know what that is before I talk to the buyers, right? Because who gets the counteroffer? You do. So be ahead of it. Know your buyers, know how they're gonna react, and be able to craft your question to say, what if? You know, what if it came back with a little bit more, and we're gonna break that down over 30 years? What's your comfortable number like? Is you have a absolutely cannot go over a certain amount? Or what if we stayed where we're at and that other person on the other counteroffer ended up with the home? How would you feel about that? Are you okay letting it go? Let them make that decision. Because there are some people that I know that are like, take it, I don't care. If I don't get it for this price, I don't want it. Okay. Other people will be like, oh gosh, they're not gonna lose it over a small amount. And I really want them to have it if they want it. But that's not for you to decide, it's for them. Okay, we're not gonna do these guys right now because we don't have as much time. Best practices when presenting. Okay, we've covered this, but we're gonna cover it in a little more detail. So, Joel, you had a good question about kind of talking about what can you get and what can't you get from the other agent. So, Julie, you've got a buyer and I'm a listing agent and your buyers really want this house. Call me up and school me. Ask me some questions as far as what you want to know for your buyer. So you're negotiating already by making the call, right? And you're negotiating with the seller's agent, and then you're gonna go back and negotiate with your buyers, right? Okay, so I'm doing my nails. Hey, this is Nikki, may I help you?
Hi Nikki, this is Julie with Keller Williams San Diego Signature. How
Oh,
are you?
I'm good, how are you doing, Julie?
I have some interested buyers that are interested in your listing on ABC Street.
Oh, awesome, tell me a little bit about your buyers.
Well, they're a newlywed couple. They're pregnant, have a baby on sellers are looking for? What do they need to move?
Okay, well, thank you so much for asking. My seller is 91, so she's really kind of not wanting a whole lot of foot traffic, which means, you know, if we got a decent enough offer and it came in at a reasonable time frame, she might be apt to take it versus having a whole bunch of open houses. She is older, so we'd really appreciate a little bit in terms of rent back, maybe a couple of weeks, possibly up to 30 days, but no more than 29 days. And then obviously, you know, your highest and best would be appreciated.
Okay, so she is looking to a rent back and maybe something quicker. If I could give you that assurance that they could have full underwriting approval, would that help?
That would help me a lot, yes, thank you.
So is there, you want to stay in for a little while? Other questions?
Don't stop.
Do you have any other offers in hand?
We did have a couple of folks sniffing around, and I do have one promised for this afternoon, but I don't have it in hand yet.
So then, what I'll do is just write up this offer and send it over to you. Do you think you'd be able to give me an answer within 12 hours?
Possibly. She's 91, so if I can get her when she's awake and I have a conversation with her tomorrow afternoon, I don't see why we couldn't be able to respond to you by then.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. Very good. Very, very good. The thing that I was fishing for, which I do, is I ask about your buyers. I was wondering about your buyers. No, we're not really allowed to ask that. I mean, the sellers should make decisions on knowing about the buyers. That's why we can't do, not can't. That's why we have to be careful with buyer letters. Because let's say we put in a picture of your buyers and they're a nationality that somebody doesn't like, or they have facial hair, or whatever. You know, there's physical judgments that people make.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we never give somebody an advantage over another one, or the sellers can be actually held accountable for discrimination if they don't choose an offer over another, if you as an agent give them those buyer letters. Now, I've gotten around that by using pets. I will give the pet. Fido really is excited about this new home, and he wants to tell you about the owners, the new owners. And I'll say a little bit about the buyers, especially if they're super strong. Like if they've been married 10 years, they've been in San Diego for 20 years, they've had the same jobs. If it's really strong, I will put it that way. Otherwise, I'll spin it into the emotional end of it. They're newlyweds, they're coming, you know, my fear is like, oh, the newlyweds are good. I can afford this with a new baby if they don't know the finances. So you also have to be careful with what you say.
Right.
You know, and you can say, well, but it's also pulling on the heartstrings, right? You're like, oh, I wish I didn't know that because now I really like them more. So we as agents have to also be very careful not to lean towards one or the other outside of the actual facts. But everything comes into play. Every single thing comes into play. Length of job, family, how long they've been here. You know, did they just move in and is this the first house they saw? Why do they like the neighborhood? What about the neighborhood do they like? So that if it, let's say, it outprices them and it gets to be too high, what do they love about it? Oh, the freeways are really close and the schools are great, but it turns out to be way too much. You thought about 92111 or Sarah Mesa? It's just a hop, skip, and a jump from here, and it's about $75,000 cheaper. I think I have a listing over there I can send you over there too. So when you really start knowing your neighborhoods, it'll also help you as a buyer's agent to really be a consultant to your buyers to say, you know what, this got out, we're outpriced, but if you really like these things, there's a lot of these things in these two neighborhoods too, and guess what? There's a little program called Inland to Coast. So buy out in Spring Valley, work your way to the water. Right? If that's all you can afford, buy it, get something, and then in 2 years, keep upgrading to the house that you really, really want. And unless they're 75, it's not going to be their forever home. So help them get over the whole, like, I want exactly this. Like if it's not their forever home, they can work their way into that. Things that they couldn't get on this one, but they're still earning equity. That's the most important thing. So that's basic practices. So calling the other agent, fantastic. That's very, very good. Pay attention to nonverbal clues like pauses, and that's why I was telling you don't pause, because you like have me, right? And then let me refer back to my notes and let me organize it so all the little dots and the little just I literally look like a crazy person when I write notes. It looks like Helen Keller got a hold of my. Look at this. I'm so excited and I'm like all over the place that if I don't translate it immediately, I have no idea what I wrote.
Yes, that's what I have to do.
Right?
Right?
Yeah, just go with it, keep going with it. So you have in all those things. I thought you were going to say, so if I came in at this price and gave you 2 weeks, would you did it right. I thought you were gonna say, would they be open to accepting an offer?
Right.
Sometimes I'll ask them, would they be open to accepting an offer early if, even if we were the first one out of the gate? Because sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong answer to that. I do like that you asked me if they'd be willing to, look at it or get back to you soon enough so you at least can communicate to your buyers. So all that was very, very good. Paying attention to nonverbal clues, that's more or less when you're presenting the offer. That doesn't really ever happen because nonverbal clues, like pauses and voice qualities. That would be what I was noticed. I immediately flip the switch on you and ask you about your buyers, and that didn't throw you off, and that's good. But a good listing agent's going to ask you about your buyers because they're going to want to know. Yeah, their boyfriend or girlfriend. I fear the boyfriend and girlfriend thing because inevitably, and again, I probably shouldn't, I'm oversharing.
Can you say their profession?
What's that?
Can you say their profession?
As a buyer's agent, I'm going to tell you everything about my buyers that I think is going to be a benefit to you. You as a listing agent can ask them what they do for a living. You just I always say, tell me about your buyers. I don't even have to say anything more than that. Blah, 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 blah. That buyer's agent's going to tell me everything. And I, as a buyer's agent, would be doing the same. I'm going to list all the important points. If they're boyfriend and girlfriend, I'm going to say they're an awesome couple. I'm never going to say boyfriend and girlfriend. Because if they're not married, things can happen. Again, friend. See, this is why I don't deal with friends. Friend. In the middle of the transaction, when it was just about getting ready to be closed up, my lender sent out a note that said, yeah, everything's in order. We just have to get the child support, thing figured out. And outside of that one thing, and everything else looks like it's in order. And she's like, what are you talking about? We don't have any kids. No, she was my friend. I'm thinking, oh, that doesn't get on any kind of public record without there being something of a reason why. And then, yeah, don't worry about it. Things like this happen all the time. I'm sure that there's a reasonable, logical explanation. Again, it's the lender, right? You as the agent, step out of it. That is not something that you even need to know. All you know is that there's something on there. Not your job. After the fact, I find out, sure shit, he's got a hidden kid. To this day, he had a hidden child. She didn't know about it when they closed escrow. I don't know if she knows about it today, but I'm watching that transaction because guess what I'm waiting for? Listing. So she finds out, they're going to sell that house. But stuff like that can come up, right? And again, be very, very careful on that water that you tread because that is something the lender knows. He can find it in me. I can never tell her, even though she's my friend. And it's a creepy place to be. Because I'm like, dude, I'd be like, have another kid and buy a house with this woman. What's wrong with you? So it's going to come out. It always does. But those nonverbal clues would be, if you say, hey, do you think we could do this or that? And I'm like, that also comes into play when you're asking about money. Hey, or can you tell me if you're 875? Would 875 do it? Do you think 875 would do it? Means no, but almost. So pay attention to those. Keep quiet once you present the offer. You guys know Kevin King? I love him. Yeah, Kevin's great. But he tends to, he's super yummy. Like he talks a lot and it's really engaging, but sometimes it can be too much. And so he knows that too. So he'll pull back sometimes. When you're newer, you tend to do that. So just be careful. Present your offer. This is what we love to do. And we'd love to do whatever, not whatever it takes to be in business with you, but we'd love to be able to dot the I's and cross the T's and get this done for you. And make everybody happy. Listening carefully to what's important to the other party, that's key. We've covered that a couple different times. What's important to you guys when you're talking to your buyers, what's important to them. And don't ever lose sight of that and consistently remind them of that. Okay? With the seller's agent, same thing. You're gonna wanna find out what's important to them and their folks. Stay calm and relaxed goes without saying. Just keep your head on your shoulders. Negotiating tips. Some of these go without saying, but being professional. At all times, if you're out and about and you're working, just look the part. You don't have to be in a suit all the time, but just don't show up in t-shirts and ripped jeans. And I saw a lot of that when it gets really busy. Agents are getting worn down, buyer's agents. God love you. You get so tired because you're gonna have to see 5 and 6 and 7 homes. You've got 3 agents or 3 buyers. You're multiplying that by I don't know how many homes you've seen that week. Your hair starts looking crazy. You stop showering. It gets nuts. Okay. Always remember that you never have a second chance to make a good first impression. Okay. And when I see you, it's the first time I've seen you, right? So it could be you're showing 18 in 3 days. doesn't matter. Because you never know when that listing agent is assessing you when you're taking care of your clients. And your clients see you. Because you're showing up with your clients to meet your clients. And it just blows my mind some of the things I've seen people wear when they meet their clients. Like, you better be a friend, family member. Pay attention to your communication and tone with anyone involved in the transaction. I can't stress that enough. Everyone. Title, escrow, inspectors, appraisers, the listing agent's uncle's monkey's dog, anybody that's associated with the transaction will come back to you. And if you're super sugar-coated and nice to the listing agent, then you see something snotty within earshot of somebody that listing agent knows, guess what? You're not getting the offer accepted. Also, be careful with what you say and what your clients say in the house. Many times people have cameras.
I did see that.
Yeah, and it could get back to the seller, and the seller, you know, and many times it's completely innocent. They don't mean to think, oh my God, I hate that. Like, who thought about that wall color? And it's just enough, and it's said in a manner that it really offends the sellers. So just tell them every time you walk into a home, pretend there's a listening device, because there might be one. More and more we're finding that. Continually refer to your client's motivation, speaking to them, we covered that, which is just bringing them back to their why. Okay? And don't reveal too much. Listen more than talk. Keep your client's motivation close to your chest. Meaning, don't run and go, oh my God, this is great because isn't this wonderful? Let them experience it. If you see things that are really great, make notes about it, talk to them later and say, did you happen to notice there's this, this, and this? That's awesome, right? What'd you think about that? Let them tell you how much you like it, because if you're telling them how much you like it, you're selling them. You buy it then, right? They have to fall in love with it. You can't make them fall in love with it. It's the puppy thing. Did I tell you about the puppy thing? Like, knock, knock, Joel, you want to buy a puppy? I'm on the phone. No. Like, I show up at your house. Knock, knock, Joel, you want to buy this puppy?
Possibly.
Maybe,
yeah.
right? You're looking at it. It's really cute. He's looking at you. He's got the big brown eyes. Knock, knock, Joel. Hey, can you hold this puppy a second? Do you want to buy that?
So
Now he's
licking
licking your
you.
face and loving on you, right? The closer and more intimate you can get, the more engaged you're going to be with that client. Okay. And then don't be too attached to the outcome. That's really, really important. That's really, really hard in the first couple of years. Because you want to make sure that you're doing right by your client, you're listening to them, you're going to get everything in line as best you can, but don't be emotionally involved in it. When they say be attached but not emotionally involved, it's not personal, it's a transaction at the end of the day. This is their largest purchase. You want to help them, stay the advisor. Stay the advisor. This is not your decision. If the wife all of a sudden has a meltdown because of whatever reason, that's real to her. You know, it's like, well, let's get to the bottom of what's causing you that pain. And can we fix that? You may not be able to. Could be that she's having a panic attack for whatever reason, and that's not going to get any better. Could be that they lose out and they find that 2 months later, like, oh my God, we should have bought then. You can't reverse time, but you can stop losing more time. So let's, ready to put the wheels back on the bus and keep going. Great. You've got to really listen and be at their timing. Ahas out of that section. Any questions from this last section? Really, it's coming down to being professional, knowing what to say, calling the agent, what to say when you call the agent, what not to say when you're calling the agent. And Julie, the only thing I could suggest for you is when you're talking to me and you're hearing me, write down those bullet points, just bullet points. So, and then at the end of the conversation, I'm understanding you. If we came in at this price with these terms, we could probably get an answer back tomorrow. Great, awesome. I'll have that over to you by the end of the day. Okay, I look forward to hearing back from you. Never assume you've got it. I hate nothing more than somebody says, great, we look forward to working with you. Can't wait to put this deal together with you. No, I didn't tell you got it. Don't get cocky. Don't be cocky. There's a difference between confidence. I look forward to hearing back from you. I'd love to work with you. I'd love to work with you. We positively anticipate your feedback. All of that is good. Can't wait to put this deal together with you. You're assuming you've already got it. That'll just irritate me enough to maybe pick somebody else. You just never know who you're dealing with, right? So if you're dealing with a black and white person, so be real careful with that. Okay. The ahas to achievement. So how's your thinking changed? What mindsets were new? Anything?
Be prepared. Just have a list of the important points. Repeat what you heard, what you confirmed.
It's huge.
It's always be positive, but not assuming that you're getting it.
Very good, very good. And when you have all those things and you have more information, how does it make you feel?
More confident.
Bingo, that's the word. Confident over cocky. Be super confident. You are the best agent for these clients. You're the best person to be talking to that listing agent. You're the best person to be delivering that information. You're an advisor. Be the advisor. Joel, what do you feel differently about? It's kind of the same question. And what was meaningful to you today?
Just getting understanding and getting the tools from you to ask the right questions to the listing agent. I just really very much liked asking the agent like, hey, have you had any offers or how many showings do you have? Just kind of like those two questions or that question kind of opens up like the rapport and then just opens the door to kind of know what the seller wants, right?
Yep. I can't stress rapport more. I can't stress it. And that starts the very second that listing agent answers that phone. Okay, and guess what? When I call people tomorrow, if I'm looking and circle dialing around and I get an agent, what do you think I'm gonna say? Hey man, how's it going? It's Nikki Francis, how you doing? Good. I'm glad to know that somebody else besides me is working today. All the time. I call agents all the time on the holidays. Just so I can get some more underbelly information. So what do your sellers need? I don't even need anybody. I don't even have a buyer right now, but I'm getting information on them. So it pops up, I'm already ahead of you, right? So, it also keeps you going when you don't have something right now. I'm in no exception to not having business out there right now, right? So I have to dig for it too. It's like digging for that worm. Have you ever seen the picture of the guy that's like chipping away, trying to find the diamond?
Yes.
And he's chipping. And he's like, screw it. And he goes over to another spot and he starts chipping. Meanwhile, the other guy goes back in there and he's digging down
right
and he
there.
found one. And it was right there. He just didn't go deep enough. It's like taking one chop out of 7 trees or 7 chops out of 1 tree. Just stay at it. So for you guys, I was saying, market your neighborhoods. If you don't have anything to market and you have no buyers, do a market report. Get your little face out there. Here's what's happening in San Diego in March. Here's what's coming around the corner in April. By the way, here's a market snapshot of happening. Many of our homeowners have been asking us, what's going on with the market? Where do we see it? Well, here's what the market data is telling us. Make it small, because if you have a little door hanger, you got room for maybe 2 sentences. Want to know more about this? I'd be happy to offer free consultations. I don't know, it used to work. I don't know if it still works. It's been forever since I've done those. But feel free to call me for a free consultation, or feel free to call me for a no obligation consultation. That works. Because we've gone from an era where people bought Amway and Mary Kay, when people were inviting strangers into their homes to please don't talk to me on the phone, just text me, right?
Okay.
We've gone from watching TV and having phone conversations to having 35 seconds of TikTok, and that's all the attention span we have, right? We live in a different world now. So you have to do what? It's always the same thing.
Fish.
Create what's in it for me, everybody's favorite radio station, WYFM. What's in it for me? If there's something interesting where I'm like, you're creating that fear of missing out, like, the 7 things you need to know before putting your house on the market. The top 5 things homeowners are doing right now that's losing the money. Give us a call. You don't tell them what they are, but then when they call you, better have that list, right? Say yeah, or if you get a little money, but for me, I do cupcakes, clearly. So who doesn't like the cupcake lady, right? I've never had anybody slam the door in my face. I've just gotten away from doing little 3-packs, doing, now I'm on the 1-pack. You go more? I'll be back into the house. A whole dozen, right? So for St. Patrick's Day, I do Irish chocolate cupcakes. It's an excuse for me to get out in the neighborhood, put a little green bow on it, put my business card on the flip side. Something clever. I don't even have to be clever anymore, because now there's this thing called the internet. You just find something clever on there and put it on the back of my little 1-pager. Doesn't have to be 2-page. Regular 20-pound bond that's printed out of my regular little printer, so I'm not spending a dime, right? Hot glue that to the top of it, bring my cupcakes, knock. Hey, just in the neighborhood saying hi to everybody in the neighborhood. I have a couple folks that live here that I've sold to, and I just want to see how you're doing. Or a lot of people have been asking us a lot of questions about the market. Just want to say hi. No obligation. Just letting you know who I am. Just say hi. That's it. You're just establishing rapport. Next time, maybe it's a calendar. Next time, maybe it's a market update. But it's that you're consistent in doing it. Then you don't have to physically show up. When you send things in the mail, they're going to remember you. Newsletters. You can go online and get a sample newsletter almost anywhere, right? So that same farm, just keep it small enough to be manageable and keep consistently hitting it up. If I punch you in the arm and then I come over and punch you in the other arm, or I punch you 3 times in the same arm, which was the bruise? The one you keep hitting, right? Because eventually you're gonna be like, give Joel the business, he's not going away. Or like, oh, I keep seeing this person all the time, it's the only face that I recognize. So again, if you're farming your neighborhood once every 6 months, and I'm farming it every week, who are they gonna call? Familiarity. Why do you think people vote for some of these idiots they vote for? I recognize the name. You know, right? I'm perfectly guilty. My very first team that I was on turned out to be a really good team, but I chose him because his face was on a park bench for 20 years. So I just figured that he must be doing something right because he was around that long, right? It's that perception, that artificial perception that, oh, this person must be great. He's still around. Right? He's still around. Farming my neighborhood. Here's his little face on the calendar that I don't need because I have the internet. Here's a little face on the events in your neighborhood that I don't need because I have the internet. They don't care. They're still getting it. Before they throw it in the face or before they throw it in the trash, what do they see? Your face. And then, lo and behold, knock, knock, you show up. Hi. I'm just saying hi to everybody this week. Anything I can do for you? Know of anybody that's moving? Sometimes we have people retiring. Just saying hi. Just want to let you know I'm your neighborhood realtor. I'm your neighbor. Anything I can do for you, just let me know. It's just gentle rapport. Not like, bam, bam, what do you sell? I got people. Right? It's not like that. Right? They'll just remember you, and as long as they like you and trust you, what do they say? If they like you, they'll, I don't even remember, I should know this. If they like you, they'll do something. If they trust you, they'll work with you. If they like you, they'll talk to you. If they trust you, they'll work with you. Okay? And then what tools, models, systems will you use? I guess my best suggestion for you guys, as we talked about database, if you're not currently using KW Command, it's part of your package, it's free. You're giving me the yes. Are you using KW Command?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. If you're not, use something. Don't use spreadsheets because you will eventually outpace yourself and it'll be too hard to manage it. And then you will have the equivalent of a bunch of post-it notes on your wall that are falling off. Okay. How will they make you accountable? That's another good one. First year, are you guys all in launch? Have coaches?
Okay.
Yes.
Coaches? Okay.
Well, actually,
Yeah,
three.
coaches, yes.
Oh, you have Carl?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Easily.
Oh, you both have Carl. Okay. Have you been assigned a new coach yet?
No.
Okay. So don't let that gap. Don't take it easy. Like I can get away with anything for a week. I'm gonna be watching you.
No, he's been off for a minute.
Okay. So what are you doing for accountability?
Well, we're supposed to actually connect with each other, but
There you
then
go.
we are,
But you're not alright.
yeah.
Because you don't have to. That's the difference between having a coach and not. So if I called you, like for my coach, who's like, hey, I want you to do this. I think the next week she goes, how'd that go? I'm like, great, show me. Right? Because we all slack as human beings. If we can get away with it, we probably will. So what you need to do with each other is show each other. So my challenge to the two of you is to put your 10 people a day, just 10, that's all I'm asking for, 10. 10 people in your database. How are you gonna get the 10? You're gonna call them. Do you think if you make 10 calls, you're gonna get a hold of 10 people? Probably not. Probably have to make 20 or 30 calls. Okay, and there's something called a Bold 100 that we do in Keller Williams. It's called a Bold 100, and it's 100 calls in a day. If you've ever done one of those, and I'll tell you, in commercial, that's all we do. It's about 60 to 80 calls a day. So in the residential side, if you're making 100 calls in a day, it takes you about 7.5 hours to do that. You will never look at 20 calls as a problem ever again, because it takes you about 20 calls to have about 10 conversations. But at the very, very least, if 10 seems overwhelming, start with 5. Something in your database. And if you're not sure how to use it, get with KW Command folks and get into that system so that once they're in there, that's great. But then it's like having a bowl full of goldfish and you don't feed them. They'll eventually float to the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta feed your database. And feeding it means you're adding it to it. Okay, then the last step of the database, and the most important, is communicate in a systematic manner. KW Command does that for you, but you have to set it up. So you have to create drip campaigns where they go, hey, you stopped by an open house, wondering how you're doing it. That's a drip campaign. Campaigns, there's a bunch of different ones, but you can set them up for a lot of different things. So if you haven't gotten your campaign set up, get into one of the KW commands or call Nick, contact Nick, and he's our tech guy, and he can help get that set up for you. Okay. Then, so Joel, you remember this one. I kind of beat you over the head with it. daily success system, don't look, don't cheat, just look at my face, don't look at the wall, is, let me see if you get at least 3 out of 4. 10-4, think 10-4.
Okay, the
He's like, I hate you so much right now.
the daily successes.
Yes.
Was,
If you're on the phone, you are,
I'm gonna need a hint.
you're calling somebody, right? So,
Yes.
and if you call somebody and you have a two-way conversation about real estate, it's considered a
A connection, right?
close, a contact.
For contact.
Contact. So you want 10 contacts. However many calls it takes to get those 10 contacts.
Call, contact, nurture.
You're close. Calls and contacts are kind of the same thing. The call is what you're going to do to get the contacts. You're so close. I know you're going to get those contacts, and then where are you going to put those contacts?
Into the command system.
Bingo, in your database, right? So contacts, 10 in your database, and then you're going to, well, this is what I had told you, which is different from this, so I can't hold you. Oh, it's actually in here. So if you're going to write something, not using a computer, in a little tiny card, it's called a note card, right? So 10 note cards. And then the last would be, here it's showing you social media engagements. We, back pre-COVID, it was that we needed to look at 10 open houses a week. And there aren't even that many available, but I would strongly encourage that you guys look at your open houses in your neighborhood at least once a week. At least once a week.
Okay.
Know your market, get familiar with your market, know what's out there, at what price, know what the condition of the house is, know what people are trying to get, because that's the expectation of the sellers right now, okay? It says, I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in a relationship with me. I want you guys to say that before you go out and talk to your buyers this week, okay? It's the equivalent of pumping yourself up in the car before you go into a listing appointment, or self-talk, or morning affirmations, or whatever you do that floats your boat, that puts you, this is a mindset changer, and as silly as it seems to do these types of things, they work, because as much as we don't know our subconscious is listening to us, it is. There's a bold law that says that your cells eavesdrop, or your mind eavesdrop, what the heck, I can't even say things today. Your mind eavesdrops on what your cells are doing, your cells eavesdrops on your actions. This is bad, now I gotta figure it out. It's a bold law, and it's really good. Be careful your body's listening to you. Every cell in your body is eavesdropping on your intentions. I'll get you the bold law, but it basically is your cells eavesdrop on your mindset. Your mindset is something that you control, whether you think you can. And, you know, you've probably seen, if you've ever been to like a Tony Robbins, any kind of rah-rah, anything, even if you don't like rah-rah, you walk out of the room, that was pretty cool, I feel pretty good, right? You can't ever like walk by somebody and goes, hey, Jimmy, how you doing? This was an experiment that I did. I just waved to like 10 random people, and every single one of them waved back, and I'm not the warm, fuzzy person like, oh, they're waving at me. This is like weird, but kind of cool. It makes you happy, right? Things that make you happy. Mindset puts you in a state of mind that gives you more confidence, and it just helps you with those buyer's calls. I'm the best buyer's agent out there. I care the most about my clients. I'm leading with contribution, and I'm here to help these people. Get the salesperson mentality out of your head. We are not salespeople. We are financial, well, not financial, but real estate advisors. We're dealing with their largest asset, so it's really important that we do help them. They're really lucky that we have them to guide them along, because we've seen what's happened to people who haven't had proper guidance. Okay?
Right.
So say this each morning, and it will be in a good place for you. I'm going to trust that you guys are doing how many calls, like in hours? Let me just ask for the three of you, because it'll be very easy. Do you time block your calls?
I time block time that I organize and post on social media and just check out that I text.
Okay, but are you time blocking physical calls? Okay, fair enough. Joel?
I am not
Okay.
blocking physical call.
No.
Okay, it's perfect. So from 9 to 11 is your cherry point. 9 to 11 on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday is your cherry, 9 to 11. 4 to 6 on Wednesday and Monday. Why would I have you do some in the afternoon and some in the morning? Because not everybody is available in the morning, right? Some people work during the day, so you're gonna catch some people in the evenings. I mean, you're gonna get to know as you get your clientele going, which people work during the day. But that, I would want 2 hours minimum in your first 2 years of being an agent. You know, because there's not a whole bunch of open houses to do, so the main thing that you can do, and the main thing that you can do everything but that, is call. Whereas call resistance is a real thing, and I suggest getting over call resistance by calling somebody you like in the morning. So it's 9 o'clock, you can call me. I may not answer, but you can call me. And I'm happy to, you know, somebody that you like. I call my grandkids. Because I always ask them what they want, they tell me, I'm like, I have to make more money to make you guys happy. You know, call somebody that you know you like, or put up a picture of somebody that you like. Again, it's my grandson, he's up there. You know, so it just makes me happy. How do I not do it? You can have a little mirror, make sure you're smiling, smile when you talk. You know, because even if you're grumpy, you can't not be happy when you're smiling, when you're talking, right? Silly things like that will help. And call resistance is real. And you find that once you get through 2 or 3 of them, you're fine. Also put yourself on a timer. So if you're trying to make, if you block out 2 hours, I go, Julie, it's 45 minutes in, how many calls you get? Well, I had to make my coffee and I had to shuffle my cards and I had to write my notes, I had to write my call list of who I was gonna call. I'm 2 in. No. See, you can call this the night before. Prepare your, again, that goes with the prepared, know who you're gonna call. And right now, if you guys don't have active clients, okay, then you should be talking to your title reps about getting a list of homeowners in your areas, okay? And then when you get the homeowner information, it doesn't always have all the phone numbers, but you can go research. There's a billion different ways you can find numbers now for people. Okay, you can call them. Be careful not to call anybody that's on a do not call list. If they say they're on a do not call list, I'm so sorry this came across my desk. I apologize. I'll cross you off right now. I won't call you again. Okay? But you can get a little assertive with how you're going to get those numbers. But I'd say the best thing, honestly, is it really is door knocking. The next best thing to open houses is door knocking, because think of the puppy sale. Belly to belly, you can't beat it. You've seen me, we've breathed each other's air, we both survived, we're good. Right? You can't beat face to face. The next best thing is phone to phone. The third is the impersonal, which everybody does because it's easier and it's the least offensive, which is social media. Still works, but you're gonna have to, your Facebook, and again, you're dealing with a data tracker. Facebook conversion rate, 1%. Way slower. Phones, much higher, face to face, double that. Same thing with social media. If you're gonna go on there, posts will get you about 10% engagement. YouTube video, 75% more engagement. That much higher. So again, hey, so-and-so, thank you so much for stopping by. When you're out there and about, if you have any other questions, let me know. I'll be happy to help you out there. Because I'm banking on their agent not getting to them. I'm saying, hey, while you're out there, because they're probably gonna see something else. Oh, what about that one? Well, that agent said, oh no, what about Sally Joe? Sally Joe's not working today. Okay. You really have an agent, you're gonna call your agent. If you really don't, you're gonna call me up. So that's a nice way to stay engaged. And what can you do? Keep your videos really short. People have no attention spans. And again, you're gonna wanna say for listings, you're gonna kind of go with the, you can do anything on social media, but the most part is you wanna bring value. Okay, and right now you guys are so armed with knowing what's coming around the corner that the buyers don't believe right now. Hey guys, remember this? And show up a picture or a video of like people running to get toilet paper, right? I warned ya. Well, that's what the market's gonna be like in about 3 more weeks. Don't let it bite you in the booty. Don't let it be another toilet paper rush to the grocery store. Don't get caught with one roll on the shelf. If you're even thinking about buying, now is the time to have a conversation. Even if you're not ready, let's have a 10-minute conversation to get your plan in order so that when you are ready, we can pull the trigger. Okay, that's a great little video. So YouTube, very easy to do a YouTube channel if you haven't done it. You can create and don't kill yourself on trying to have the perfect camera and your hair is perfect. The best videos are when I've done the stupidest things. When I fell on my face and my phone went flying, it got more engagement than anything else that really did happen. I've just learned to just run with it and I just laugh at myself because it's real life, We all gloss everything over. Life is not filtered. It's not like that. Things happen and days are bad and things will land on me and things will happen, it's just funny. And you just go with it. And the more you're just yourself, the more you're used to being yourself and people will trust you, right? They like you, they'll talk to you. If they trust you, they'll do business with you. And they'll start going, oh, I see this person all the time. And then all of a sudden you're the politician that's running that nobody really knows, but they see their face all the time, so they vote for him. Happens. I get so many referrals now on the commercial boards in the residential pages because other people keep seeing my name that my other people have referred me to. Like, oh, I keep seeing your name pop up. I'm like, who's talking about me? all it takes is one person, and then I'm the name that they think of, and they go, oh yeah, I remember seeing this one person. There you go. I'm like, I didn't even do anything to deserve that. I just stayed visible from other people, right? So you're your other people. You are tooting your own horn by putting your own little video out there, and have fun with it. You can just say, you know, I told Kyle Whistle, who's like #1 in the world in YouTube. He started with going into East County and started East County Eats. And he went in and interviewed all the restaurant owners and said, hey, tell me what you love about this place and what's your favorite dish, and this is great, blah, blah, blah. That's how he came into San Diego and started conquering the market. It had nothing to do with real estate. People don't care about houses. They care about fashion and food, right? So whatever you like and whatever is your personal interest, let's say you have a personal thing you do, a hobby, a talent, you can do it around that too. Just stay visible. And we are actually all done. And it's 4 o'clock on the dot. Yay.
So much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Make sure you prepare for your next one. If you have any questions, let me know. And I will send out the dashboard, and there was something else in my notes I was going to send you guys as well. Which was the buyers, the negotiating questions.
Yeah.
Sir,
Can you?
I can.
I submitted my first offer.
How exciting! I'm so excited.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
Well, Jill, if you want to take a peek at this, you probably learn, unless you're submitting a competing offer against the same property. That's all right. Always ask me questions.
Alright, so.
You can sit. I don't know about you. I don't bite before 4:05. Thank you for showing. And I'll get over to that. She asked me for negotiating questions. I'll get that
Yes.
on the dashboard.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everything. Very useful.
Here's the meat of the proposal, right? So,
And it's already submitted?
I already submitted the
Okay.
offer. The property was listed at $3
It's a
million.
great price. Is it a condo?
It's a condo. I did the comps, the last comps around the neighborhood sold around that price for 30%.
And it was listed at $390?
Yes, $399. So we went in aggressive.
Yeah, you did.
Like very aggressive.
First time buyers?
First time buyer.
I'm noticing, how do you think I know all this? I just asked you. I'm asking you because the price point is under $500,000. I know there's no single family homes under $675,000 right now, so I knew it was a condo. I see 1%, which is typical for a first time buyer. So as a listing agent, I'm like, you're sending it to me, I'm telling you what I'm thinking. First time buyer, which is fine. Their loan amount,
Yeah.
is fine. Well, that's fine.
Okay. So
So creep back up there. I'm gonna look to the far, keep going back up, I'm looking at, okay, so we know, obviously it's not all cash because it's down there, but those, I look on the far right,
convention.
because those are additional terms. Remember we talked about what else you can offer? Those are like extras. So if it was all cash, great, that would trump anything else. Initial deposit, you can add an additional deposit. It's not very common, but let's say the seller's agent wasn't comfortable with just 1%. You could always add an additional deposit if that made them feel better for whatever reason. It's not very common, but you can. That's what that other traditional terms are. And the same thing with the increased deposit. You can add more deposit if they're worried about like the appraisal coming in at value or anything like that. What you're missing here is on the loan amount on the far right. It says conventional, or if checked, it's one of those. Now they're first time buyers, so the FHA should be checked.
He's a conventional.
Oh, he's conventional. Okay,
Yes,
awesome.
at a 5%.
Even better. That's even
Yes.
better.
So that's why I didn't check.
Great.
So he's conventional. And I'll show you the email that I sent.
Okay. Mommy's so proud.
Is it?
Seller credit, $7,000. Now, why are they getting a seller credit already?
Oh no, I requested a buyer credit, right?
Yes, but I'm wondering why they're getting a credit already. Have they seen it? They've already gone through negotiations, or are you just asking that for closing costs?
I'm asking that for
Okay.
costs. Yeah.
Okay.
For
Did you negotiate that up front?
Yeah, I called.
Okay, great,
Well, I
perfect.
basically told him like, hey, my buyer does want some like closing costs. He wants the closing costs to be
Mhm.
covered.
Now you realize you have no control of the actual number, but you can get close to it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You did it right. You don't ever want to say
Or-
closing costs or seller to cover closing costs. You want to put an actual number in there. And then your buyers have to understand that, you know, they'll get close to it, but if there's any residual difference, are they okay paying the balance?
That's why we went in aggressive on the price too. So,
Alright.
sure.
And you can always just flat out say that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna offer you 10,000 more, but I need to have 7,000 back, so you're still
Yeah.
gaining 3 or you cool with that.
Yeah. And
And that's fair, 15 days on the
15
loan.
days investigation of the property. 12. So everything that
Why 12?
that's what my coach told me.
Interesting. I would do 10.
Okay.
I don't touch the appraisal because there's not much I can do on that. But I do release the contingency on the appraisal as soon as we get it.
Seller delivery documents 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Becca, that's really fast. Is there a reason that you wanted it that fast? Okay,
I'm
tell me.
I'm following you.
I get it, and that's why I'm asking you. So I want you to understand why. So the seller delivery of documents, why that's important to you as a buyer's agent is because what is that?